Welcome to episode 134 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the How Do You Like Me Now edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, coming off of a pretty rough weekend if you look at a lot of the things that I'm involved with. But we're here, we're kicking, getting ready for another week, and looking forward to the show as always with my co host, Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. Yeah, exactly. How do you like me now? No, but it was a lot of interesting things happening racing this weekend. Of course, we'll get into it. Bubba Wallace winning under green condition, so he won one that wasn't raining now, and that was good and everything. And football was disappointing on both ends, on college and NFL. And just a lot of stuff that happened this weekend in the world of sports.
Yeah, our team's lost. I mean, your team lost to the Washington General Commanders and made it was unfortunate. Made Carson Wentz look like 2017, but Jacksonville came back and fought, which is not something they've done in recent years. The Niners had a good first half, gave up a terrible play at the end of the first half, and that essentially set the tone for the rest of the game. Trey Lance struggled. um, the defense made bad penalties. Maybe some of those penalties were questionable, but too many bad penalties allowed an offense that was non existent to score two touchdowns. And that was essentially the difference. The Niners will be playing the Seattle Seahawks at home this coming weekend and for their home opener. So we'll see how that goes. Seattle right now is playing Monday Night Football against their former quarterback in in Russell Wilson. For the Jacksonville, who do you guys play on Sunday?
This coming Sunday, we play the Indianapolis Colts at home.
Yeah,
So potentially get right game there based on the last 7 years playing in Jacksonville. Since 2014, since the end of 2014, Jacksonville has won every home game against the Indianapolis Colts, including the London home game. So we'll see what happens if the streak continues to go on, but it could also come to an end. At some point it has to end. So we'll see.
yeah, I think that game is going to look a lot tighter after Indianapolis had their hands full in Houston yesterday. Davis Mills played really well. Their team played well, and they tied. Something that a lot of people probably didn't expect. People figured Indianapolis would go in there and probably win. And I guess you could say the same thing about last year, the last couple of weeks of the season, and then they blew that situation. So we'll talk about football for sure later on in the episode because now we're getting down to the end of the season with a lot of racing. We have some big gaps. Darrell Wallace Jr. getting a second career Cup Series victory, sweeping the season for 2311 for at Kansas Speedway for the 45 bunch, and big victory for him in his career and big victory in general. Locks the team into the round of 12. Kyle, the big news I think that'll be coming up later this week is Kyle Busch is leaving Joe Gibbs Racing after 15 years to move to RCR and more than likely taking over Tyler Reddick's car, which means the 8 car, which means that not only is Kyle Busch going there, he's going back to Chevy after initially, well, first he was with Ford, then he went to Chevy with Hendrick before his long and successful partnership with Toyota. Um, Chevy, Kyle Busch Motorsports is going to go to Chevy. Their late model programs going to Chevy. So this could have wide ranging effects on the driver development front, especially for Toyota. Tyler Reddick, who is signed for 2311, is he going to be in a third 2311 car? Is he going to take over the 45 from Kurt Busch? Is Kurt Busch going to go and decide to retire? He's been hanging out at places recently. He's been seen at different events in recent weeks, but he's still not healthy enough to drive. And it seems like they're not going to call him back to drive the rest of this year. I have a hard time believing that they would do that now after Bubba Wallace won on Sunday. we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the points heading into the cutoff. It's pretty dire for a couple of drivers, and Kyle Busch is right on the bump. Gragson won an Xfinity rain shortened race and gets his 5th win of the year. Then in the cutoff, it's the last race coming up this Friday night at Bristol. Sheldon Creed is 13 points behind the cutoff right now, so we'll see. He had an opportunity, of course, at Darlington to win and wasn't able to pay that off, and it looks even worse in hindsight because of not being able to get a full race in at Kansas. But he's only 13 points behind. We'll talk about that. Who do we think is going to make the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. Hunter Nemechek takes his 2nd win of 2022, and Carson on a last lap pass on Carson Hocevar, and Hocevar tried to stay out late. Fuel mileage didn't work out for him. Matt Crafton, after one of the longest years of his illustrious career, both him and Hocevar are out heading into the round of 8 at Bristol. IndyCar saw Will Power win the elusive 2nd championship after setting the pole record the day before. Alex Palou wins in his last race as the current champion, dominating. Might be some news in regards to what might be going on with him here in 2023. Christian Lundgaard wins Rookie of the Year over David Malukas. There's other things, other stuff we need to discuss in IndyCar as they'll be now they have their off season, longest off season amongst most all motorsports. The Italian Grand Prix, Verstappen wins his 5th in a row. Issues trying to get Daniel Ricciardo's car off the track assisted that. Leclerc started on pole, finished 2nd. Russell started P2, finished 3rd. So all 3 teams represented on the podium. Sainz and Hamilton 4th and 5th coming from the back. Max Verstappen can become a 2-time world champion at Singapore at the end of this month with a decent enough finish. The other big piece that took away is Nick DeVries started the weekend driving FP1 for Aston Martin, then ended up in the Williams because Alexander Albon took ill, had appendicitis, and then apparent respiratory event that had to get re-intubated. Supposedly he's out of the hospital. The plan is they're hoping he will be ready for Singapore in a few weeks' time, but we will see about that. Essentially what happened is Nick DeVries gets a few laps of practice in 2 different cars, jumps in the Williams, out-qualifies Nicholas Latifi, and then scores points on debut, with Nicholas Latifi starting to get a little more pointed in his comments, knowing more than likely he just lost his job. The GSP Roundup will go over Felipe Drogovic winning the F2 championship while in the pits because Amory Cordial ran into him, because that's what Amory Cordial does. Victor Martins in a crazy race with similar feelings of Abu Dhabi of last year. Somehow or another comes through, wins the Formula 3 World Championship in their last round of their season. Formula 2 still has 1 round to go, which will be at Abu Dhabi at the end of the year. Fuji Speedway, WEC, the Toyotas win, but now it's a little closer battle and heading into their final round. Manny Coor, World Superbikes controversy between Alvaro Bautista and Johnny Ray, and which crash, an accident happening and controversy there, which is something we'll discuss. 30 points in that championship. Supercars for the last time in Pukekohe, New Zealand. Shane Van Gisbergen gets a couple of home wins there. Not shocking. Will Davison gets the first race win for DJR. Big wreck between Mark Winterbottom and the Erebus Will Brown team. might be there's some controversy with that. We'll get into that. NHRA will be making their playoff opener this weekend at Maple Grove for all 4 pro categories, so something to look at there. Who do we look at as favorites? MotoGP Moto 2 at Aragon. Point standings are getting a little tighter in the MotoGP. The Moto 2 standings are very close. Augusto Fernandez, of course, winning last race or getting a couple races ago, and now going to MotoGP, whatever happens the rest of this year. We'll get into the NFL. Both the Niners and Jaguars lost. My fantasy teams don't look so great this week, so it's been a pretty ugly week for sure. But I'm glad it's a new week, new beginnings, new opportunities. Some players that played well, some players that didn't. We'll get into that in regards to both real play and fantasy play. NASCAR will have their triple header at Bristol this coming weekend. First, I think Wednesday night or Thursday night for the trucks, Friday for the Xfinity, and Saturday night for the Bristol Night Race and the cutoff of the first round for the Cup playoffs. Josh will talk about all things iRacing and sim racing in his sim segment. We'll close the deal. So, yes, William Darrell Wallace Jr., Darrell Bubba Wallace Jr., wins his second career Cup Series race at Kansas Speedway. Big win in the Hollywood Casino 400. The first 2 races of the playoff have seen non-driver points competitors win the race. Bubba was up there all day, top 5 stage points, results, same amount of points as Christopher Bell, who won stage 1 and finished second in stage 2. Christopher Bell is the points leader going into Bristol, has locked himself in to the next round of the playoffs. Alex Bowman, after basically being non-existent the entire year, Josh, has woken up and led the most laps yesterday, 107. Second most laps led were Bubba Wallace. He got it was really those 2 guys. 38 laps led by Tyler Reddick from pole, and then he had tire issues, which is seemingly typical now of Kansas Speedway with this car, rough surface, bad year tires being what they are, and Tyler Reddick now has issues with that in regards to his points situation. Kevin Harvick getting chastained, being the bad end of a chastained sandwich, going into Bubba Wallace, and then Kevin Harvick getting taken out that way. So even if Bubba Wallace had the great run that he had, now the maggot morons in the LCD and on top of that, Kevin Harvick fans are going to blame him for that, even though it was Chastain. Chastain in the end still finished 7th. I'll go into the top 10, and frankly, the 13 of the top 14 drivers have some involvement in the playoffs. Bubba, of course, in the Owners' Championship, they're in a round 2. Bubba Wallace beat his car owner, Denny Hamlin. Christopher Bell giving Toyota's top 3 after generally lacking some pace. I mean, Bell and Wallace had pace, but Hamlin didn't have any all practice and all weekend. Alex Bowman 4th, Martin Truex 5th, so 4 Toyotas in the top 5. William Byron, Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez round out the top 10. Chase Elliott, William Clyde Elliott II, Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, Austin Dill, and Chris Buescher round out your top 15. So only playoff drivers behind that group there. Joey Logano, who had led early in the race, and got stage points in both stages, finished 17th. Kyle Busch had tire issues and finished 26th, a lap down, first car 1 lap down. Then, as I mentioned, Reddick, who finished 35th, and Kevin Harvick, who finished dead last. So, Josh, I mean, Bubba Wallace was up there all day. He was one of the fastest cars. The 48 was up there. I mean, Bowman was leading up to, but Bubba was leading there. Bowman and him essentially had the lead from lap 121. Essentially, from lap 121 till the end was led by either Alex Bowman or Bubba Wallace, with the exception of Daniel Suarez leading 7 laps during a pit exchange. But Gateman victory, you're not going to, for Bubba, you'll never be able to get rid of the naysayers and the haters in that sense. But that is probably the best performance that Bubba Wallace has had in a major 3 NASCAR series event. To go and be that good the whole entire day, maximize the car. The team did their job on pit road, and he really was just kind of playing with them. And him and Freddie did a great job, and I think Freddie is still hungover. I don't know if he made it to the DBC. I guess we'll find out here later this week if he made it to door bumper clear, because I'm sure he got really loaded. I got to see it coming back from the horse race at Monmouth Park, and I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. My friend was telling me and giving me updates. He was sitting there watching the race, and I'm like, oh man, can this be? And I'm looking at the Twitter feed. I'm looking at Joe's update, Joe Passero's updates, and I'm like, oh my God, can it be? Can it be? I got there like 20 something laps ago and got to see him win the race, and it was a huge victory for Darrell Wallace Jr. For 2311, with what might be coming, an apparent expansion of their organization, or a retirement coming, and then also and Tyler Reddick coming along. It's going to be it's a good year, good time for Bubba Wallace right now to have that happen after what I think he probably thought was a lost opportunity in Kansas earlier this year when he had a really fast race car.
I mean, yeah, this season for Bubba Wallace was, a lot of opportunities that they had for top 10 finishes, top fives, and then had chances to go for the win. I mean, let's start back all the way, beginning of the year, Daytona finished second there and came within basically a fender of winning the Daytona 500 back in all the way back in February, and then you mentioned. Kansas back in May. They had a fast car there, and they had issues on pit road, and they came back to finish 10th. Go look at the Coca-Cola 600. They qualified up front in third place, and they had probably a top 5 car there, but they got caught up in the one of the accidents, and then ended up getting put on the DVP, and they made a mistake there, and they made that mistake and ended up going too slow, and then NASCAR parked them there. Look at Nashville; they had a fast car there, and went back to the front multiple times. And I think they finished in the top 10 there, but like in 9th or 10th place. Then look at Michigan, where they had the pole. And had a chance to win there at the end, and just didn't get the push on the final restart there, and then got caught up in traffic with or got raced hard by Joey Logano and Kyle Larson there at the end, and Kevin Harvick drove away and won that race. So a lot of opportunities there, and you saw. I thought for me, I thought I saw a lot of improvement throughout the year, especially when they switched pit crews. And it was just a matter of being able to put a race together. And so I knew at some point it probably would happen, if they could do it. And the way that they had speed this weekend in qualifying, they were able to do that. So it was a good race for them. They even had pit road issues here. I think they had a loose wheel or loose lug nut, and they came back to pit road, and Bubba Wallace didn't lose his composure or anything. And he was able to get back to the front, and stage 2 end, he was in the top 5, and he was racing Kyle Larson, William Byron for second and third, and he was able to get past them, and then he was able to reel that in Alex Bowman, and then from there it was his race under control, and just had to make sure he got to the final pit stop, and got that squared away and taken care of, and then it was just a matter of holding on to the lead, and he was able to do that multiple times during the last stretch of the race, and sometimes there was a couple times when the lap times were a little bit slower than Christopher Bell or Denny Hamlin, but I guess being able to navigate through traffic and stuff, and being able to, I guess, get through all that, he was able to keep the lead, and Danny Hamlin ended up finishing second, who and ended up running out of time, and is the guy that he pays to race in this series right now, ends up winning. So he's finally able to do that and get a win. So now we have 18th. Drivers who've now won in the series this season, so the most drivers up to this point who have won, and I think we're like 1 or 2 wins away from having the most cup wins or cup winners in the season. So it's continuing to be a record-breaking season there. So it's pretty interesting, the way that the parity works out and everything. And one thing we got to talk about. Bring up, our former guest on the show, Mr. Phil Spain, the winner of $10,000, courtesy of Moneyline. I was able to see him, get that initial 500K or $500 entry to get onto the car, and then being able to see his name. That was pretty cool. So shout out to Phil there. It's life-changing money. I mean, even $10,000 can help a lot. Plus, I think free gas was also for the next month, is also part of it. So huge savings there. Gas still pretty tight in some areas. So it's pretty good. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to see Bubba Wallace win this weekend, because when you see somebody has an opportunity to get that kind of money, if Bubba Wallace or any other driver wins, you want to see that happen, and so that was one of the reasons wanted to see that. But happy for Bill, and happy for you too, is and glad to see Bubba Wallace finally win this year. So definitely in my opinion a good victory, and glad it's able to happen.
And it's for certain fan bases, it's harder than others, of course.
I
But
mean, who gives a
to
fuck about
be,
those guys, man?
yeah,
I
but
mean, I've
yeah,
been saying it for
it's
years.
yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
I
Yeah, I
know.
completely agree. It's and the reality is that's why it's something we're going to get into in the Formula One discussion here
Yeah,
in a little bit too. But the fact is, he did the job yesterday.
yeah,
There was no help. There were no illegal car. There were none of that shit. There were no, oh, he had a rain delay crap. None of that. None of this garbage. He earned that victory. And there are people and there are segments of our society that'll never give him credit, and that's fine. That's good. But the fact is, he just went out there and he won that race. And
yeah,
he took that car and he took that team. That team has been having issues all year. They finally put it all together. And they've proven over the last 3 months, they've been one of the best race cars out there
yeah. The
anyway.
last 10 races, there's a statistic on NASCAR Reddit. The last 10 races of the season, Bubba Wallace, I think, has the best average finish here, as Jerry Judy scores a touchdown for the.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
So
for Denver. So big deal for him trying to fade some of the issues that he's had early in his career. Now that he has a QB, one that is a Super Bowl winning QB and Super Bowl losing QB in a big spot, of course. But going back home in a sense for Russell Wilson in his first game back, literally on opening day, and getting a touchdown there. They're, I think, still down, or they're tied now, I think, at 10 at the score. So, yeah, Bubba winning that race, giving that opportunity for that organization to continue in the playoffs. The work that Kurt Busch did earlier this year to win that race didn't go. It wasn't for. It was all worthwhile, and they have an opportunity to continue in this playoff now in the next round, which is a little bit more iffier set of tracks, I think, for Bubba. I mean, Texas Motor Speedway, I don't think is as bad, even though it's just a shitty racetrack. Um, I think they they should be all right there. I'm not as sure about the road courses though. He didn't do bad at Watkins Glen relative to what his career has been on road courses. So big victory, awesome victory as a to see him win. And for those that don't like it, you can go and suck a dick. The drivers' point standings going into Saturday night's race at Bristol. See Christopher Bell locked into the round of 12 on points. He has a 10-point lead on Will Byron, an 11-point lead on Denny Hamlin, 18 points on Joey Logano, and then Ryan Blaney is 22 points back. So that's the top five. The main discussion, I think there's right now you have from fifth through, or even if you take Joey Logano's 14 points separating fourth through ninth. They're all pretty clustered together. Chase, you got Logano, Blaney, Hamlin, Elliott, Larson, Chastain. The intrigue starts at 10th. Daniel Suarez is +6 above the cut line. Tyler Reddick, with his 35th place finish, is only +2. Austin Cindric is +2. Kyle Busch is out by 2 points. His probably soon to be teammate, Austin Dillon, is -3 out of the cut. And then you have Chase Briscoe, who had one of his better runs he's had in a while. Finished fifth. He's 15th. He's 9 points out, which is pseudo needing a win. And then the guy who definitely needs a win is Kevin Harvick. First time in his career that he's had 3 consecutive finishes DNFs. He's never had that in his career until now. And by God, if you're picking a worse time to have 3 consecutive DNFs, while Scott Miller is trying to have a war of words with Kevin Harvick because of how bad the next gen car is made. So he's fighting multiple battles there. But Kevin Harvick, a multiple time winner at Bristol, his only path to making the round of 12 after the recent momentum he had prior to this bad swing is a win at Bristol, which in turn then starts turning the screws on the next 6 drivers ahead of him in the playoffs: Suarez, Reddick, Cindric, Kyle Busch, Dillon, and his teammate Chase Briscoe. Xfinity Series at Kansas, there ain't a whole lot there. Gragson gets another victory, 5th of the season. So there's some other news and stuff in the silly season, but the Kansas Lottery 300, one race before the playoffs. We'll get into the race results here in just a moment. Noah Gragson won the second stage, which basically was the end of the race, over Justin Allgaier, Ty Gibbs, Bruckshot Jones, who started on pole, Ross Chastain from 15th in the Big Machine Records car. Round out the top 5. AJ Allmendinger 6th, Josh Berry 7th, Sammy Smith 8th in the 18 car. Sam Mayer 9th, and Brett Moffitt driving the 07 with Circle B diecast on the car finishes 10th after qualifying 16th. Sheldon Creed 11th, Austin Hill 12th, Herbst was 16th, and that's all the people that had stage points. In between that, Castle, Seig, Hemrick, guys that are on that cutoff or whatever for points. Right now, 9 drivers are locked in, either through points or through wins. 7 are through wins. Sam Mayer and Riley Herbst locked in through points. Hemrick is +50. Castle's +32. And Ryan Seig is 13 points ahead of Sheldon Creed. And that's the only person who can make it in on points is Sheldon Creed outside of that group. The battle right now in regards to driver points, AJ Allmendinger has a 38-point lead on Ty Gibbs, so there's a pretty high likelihood that AJ Allmendinger will win the regular season title and get that 15 playoff point bonus, which will be huge for him because right now, as it stands, he's 21 points behind Noah Gragson when the playoffs start. Instead, he'd be only 6. The playoff point battle would be Gragson, Gibbs, Allmendinger, or Gragson, Allmendinger, Gibbs, and then we'd have to see what happens with Allgaier. He'd be giving up a few points to start this playoff, and then Barry and Hill are a bit back, and then we go from there. But yeah, I mean that race, there wasn't a whole lot that went on in that race. I mean, Gibbs led a good amount of it, and Gragson was really the only other person that led. The rain was what they were racing in the grand scheme of things. The timing was right for Gragson once he took the lead there, Josh, and taking another victory. I guess proving he's probably starting to mature. Maybe, I guess, to come to Jesus meeting after he right reared Sage Karam at Road America and having to now kind of straighten up a little bit because he's going to be a Cup Series driver for Maury Gallagher and Mr. The King. Maybe has helped because it looks like the guy actually wants it, and it looks like he's starting to change up certain things. I mean, yeah, he's still douchey. Yes, he's still doing goofy crap to try to appeal to the LCD because he is LCD, but it looks like Gregson's actually trying to fulfill what virtually every other driver of the 9 car has done in the Xfinity series, which is win a championship instead of being a waste of a seat, which generally speaking he's been for most of his career, other than bringing the big paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Gragson.
Seattle scored a touchdown just now, but you'll see that in a second.
Okay, yeah, I'll see it in a second because you're seeing it live and I have it on YouTube TV, so bit of delay there. But yeah, Noah Gragson, he's for the first couple years in the 9 car didn't produce many. I think he he's won a couple times before this season, but not as not as productive as Chase Elliott or William Byron in the same car, and even Tyler Reddick.
Tyler.
So it's come along. So now I guess he's considered a prospect now for the Cup Series, which has come true now, as he's going to drive the 42 car next year for Penny GMS. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I definitely think he's matured now. It's been a topic of conversation amongst us, the last couple of weeks is his maturity in the series, and I mean, I think he's definitely has matured now. So I think it's more of a question of, will he be able to, once we actually get to the playoffs, to in the Xfinity series, to be able to do the things you need to do to maximize your points there through the stages, and then ultimately securing a win, or finishing, maximizing your points for a finish and getting through each of the rounds in the Xfinity Series playoffs to get to Phoenix. So and then he won in Phoenix early in the year, so and everything, so he's already got a little bit of an advantage there, as far as setup and strategy and everything. So he could be a favorite if he makes it to Phoenix, for the Xfinity title. So we'll have to see ultimately if that happens. But yeah, not a whole lot happened in this. I mean, I think it was clear with rain coming on the way, and they're racing to the finish. With impending weather, that was really the focus. But elsewhere in the field, you talk about the battle between Sheldon Creed and Ryan Reed making the final spot, and Ryan Reed, he had a pit stop, I think, at the last caution, or Ryan Seig, Ryan Seig had a caution, or one of the last cautions, went and got tires, and then was able to pick up positions after that, and continue to increase his gap, or minimize the amount of points that Sheldon Creed could have given or gained on him throughout that race, to the premature end of that. So it's going to come down to, I think, Sheldon Creed. Ultimately, I think he's going to have to, more than likely have to win, or figure out a way to finish as high as possible and get as much stage points as he can, and hope that something bad luck or something like that happens early on to Ryan Seig, and like a early crash or mechanical failure takes him out, and then he's able to win both stages, or not win both stages necessarily, but finish as high as possible, like a top 3 or something like that in both stages, and then be in contention for the win and ultimately win or finish in the top 3. I think that's probably what it's going to take for Sheldon Creed to make the playoffs for the Xfinity Series. But um, yeah, I think that was the other interesting battle there between those two guys. But yeah, you're right. Nothing crazy happened in this race. I mean, I almost thought that Ty Gibbs might have had it, maybe if he had a couple more laps before the rain came. But with the way the rain happened and the timing of it, with the stage two ending, there was no question that it was probably going to happen. And once it started pouring, and they said they lost the track about maybe like 10 minutes into the rain delay, you knew it was probably coming pretty soon after that. So yeah, now Noah Gragson, I think, yeah, he has most wins now, tied with Ty Gibbs in the Xfinity Series, right? So I think he also could win Bristol too. He's run pretty well there too. So kind of a swing from where he was earlier in the year to now to potentially having the most wins in the Xfinity Series. Kind of a big swing there and everything. And one other thing, talking about his owner Dale Jr. on the broadcast, turned into the weatherman for a couple minutes there. So another talent Dale Jr. has, being the weatherman for the broadcast on NBC.
Got that cold front coming in over there on
Yep.
across turn two, and we're about 5 minutes away from there, guys. We got to go and make sure we get this race in there in the end of the stage. But I don't know if we're gonna go and pit there, Darrell Letarte, but I wouldn't pit because the rain's about to come. This is going to work out very well for me. My Boomhauer Dale Jr. impression is going to keep on coming in because that would be the thing. Could we get Dale Jr. to get on the podcast because you and Joe are fans of his, and I like doing an impression of him. That would be the ultimate.
I
If
mean,
he's like, do I sound like that?
if I ever run into him on iRacing, maybe it'll happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, you're not going to slide into the DMs. That's not the way to do it. We shouldn't do it that way.
No.
We should do it
Well, I mean, it
very.
depends. If it's the 87s, we got the paint scheme on there.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Um, that's something that we'll look into as the season goes on. Oh, so Baltimore did win, but they lost a bunch of people. They lost a couple people to yesterday for the season. So at least I'm okay for this week in my survival pool. Sorry. Um, it's something to see as the season goes on. I mean, Junior Motorsports is definitely, it's essentially Junior Motorsports with the 9 and the 7 versus Ty Gibbs in the 54. And then you have Colleague with AJ Allmendinger. That's essentially what we have. After that, you're just kind of hoping and wishing you're going to make something happen within this playoff. If you can get on a heater, it's a good time to do it. A good momentum boost could start this weekend or this Friday night at Bristol. Truck Series ended their first round of the playoffs at the Kansas Lottery 200. The race results saw Hunter Nemechek pass. He won both stages, made a last lap pass running into the back of Carson Hocevar going into turn one. Led 88 laps, wins the race. Maximum points. Carson Hocevar's Hail Mary attempt goes for naught, finishing second, in part because Christian Eckes made up I don't know how many positions late in the race. 2 or 3 points was the gap there. Ryan Preece third for the 17. They're involved in the owners' points battle. Zane Smith fourth. Grant Enfinger fifth, who was already locked in coming into this race. Chandler Smith, who was locked in coming into this race. Corey Heim with the 51. They're an owner's points team, and Ty Majeski 8th. So the top 8 were all playoff involved drivers. Colby Howard, the first non playoff driver, in 9th. Christian Eckes 10th. Parker Kligerman, credit to him in the Food Country Henderson Racing team to finish 11th. I think you picked D Burrito, Josh. He finished 12th. Ben Rhodes finished 13th. Matt Crafton, which has been essentially his whole year, running about 10th to 8th to 15th, and he finishes 15th and gets knocked out. Duvall fades a bad night, finished 20th there. So, I mean, the race was essentially John Hunter Nemechek, a little bit of Ty Majeski, and then the Hail Mary attempt by Carson Hocevar, Josh, and the owner. Yeah, I'm going to go and look at the reset owner points because right now the points heading into heading into Bristol this weekend. Zane Smith has a point lead of 9 over Chandler Smith. John Hunter Nemechek 13 plus, he's 13 points out of him, and 20 points out of Ben Rhodes. The cutoff is Ben Rhodes over Stuart Friesen by 4. Majeski is minus 13 or minus 9 off of the cutoff, and then minus 10 each for Grandin Finger and Christian Eckes. So, yeah, that's what we saw. John Hunter dominated Carson Hocevar and the what do you call Nice team going for the Hail Mary. Phil Gould. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them, but it was a valiant effort by that team. They had opportunities earlier in the year, got screwed for wins, and here they didn't get screwed for the win. It just really didn't work out for them because they didn't have the pace. But Carson Hocevar, I think, has some positive things coming his way here next year in regards to his career after great performances like this.
Yeah, I think, for Carson Hocevar, this was a Hail Mary attempt there, but, ran out of gas, but obviously not enough to make it into the next round in the playoffs. But still, he made a name for himself in this series. He was without all these second place top 5 finishes that he had, he wouldn't be in this position. So he's got a lot going for him. I think probably just needs to be in a better ride, ride with a little bit more pace. So we'll see what happens. Especially, there are going to be guys in the truck series that move on up, and there'll also be rides in the Xfinity series that may open up here in the next season. And I'm sure there's owners around taking a chance, or possibly taking a chance to pick up this guy and put him in a better ride. So we'll see if he can really shine his talent, or show his talent there and shine whatever series is in, whether it's the trucks or Xfinity and everything. And still think that maybe he's a couple years away, not ready for Cup at least. So we'll see. We'll see. If he's able to make it up to Cup, but I think at the very least, probably a win or two in the trucks is definitely possible. If not this year, then probably next year he could probably have a few wins under his belt there. So, but a lot of encouraging moments for him throughout the year. So I think it's just a matter of time for him to win a race. But for the rest of the field, John Hunter Nemechek getting back to his winning ways like from last year. So I think he's gonna be good. For this next round, probably. I think he has a chance to get to the final round at Phoenix and win the championship this time. So we'll see what happens if he's able to get out there and win the race, win the championship like he should have probably last year in the Xfinity or in the Truck Series. So John Hunter definitely was a dominant truck this weekend. So, and should be expected, being in a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck, which going back to the news that we've heard this weekend, might be the last season that they're racing Toyotas. So you have to wonder what his future is going to look like past this season. Now that KB is expected to go to RCR next season.
Yeah, it's something to look at for sure. The truck series is going to look a lot different in a lot of ways. John Hunter probably doesn't have a ride based on how things are going with that. I think Chandler Smith's going to be okay though. Think the Smiths, there's going to be a couple of Smiths in the Xfinity series next year for Joe Gibbs Racing, and I also think Carson Hocevar is going to be in the Xfinity series next year, which means that a lot of the youth and talent in that sense. I think probably I figure John Hunter might catch on with Sam Hunt and that organization, or the 48 Big Machine car looks to be a very viable ride for a lot of drivers. A couple of drivers in the ARCA series, I would think in particular. I think Nick Sanchez might be one of those guys. I mean, we're getting into the weeds here, but if Nick Sanchez doesn't get a call to the truck series, I figure that 48 car might be one. Raja Caruth is another one. And then you have some of these guys in the Chevys, the other guys in Chevys that may want to have an opportunity there in a fully funded ride. So talent can actually get in that car. They have all the pieces there to actually happen. It's an RCR car. You don't think the RCR probably ain't going to make changes on the Xfinity side with their drivers. I think their move is they're going to put Austin Hill in a third car if they could eventually get a charter. Um, I think there might be some play in that with some of these teams not being able to perform no matter what they do with swapping charters. It's something that I don't know if Joe knows, or I haven't been able to dig into it in regards to the viability of the 3 year rule. Last 3 years of performance where they finish, and if you finish in the bottom 3 years in a row, um, how that works. I mean, the only reason I can kind of deduce that is from DBC and what they said in regards to probably one of the Rick Ware cars, one of the Spire cars, and what I would venture to say more than likely is um, either the 78 or which is one of the lower charters, I would assume, as the situation there. Going into halftime, Denver just kicked a field goal. I think it's 17-13 at halftime, so a good game here to start week one. Seattle actually putting up a fight. Geno Smith actually looking like an NFL quarterback. Uh, those are some pigs. Um, yeah. Yeah, well, the fact is he was a diva anyway, and Seattle is a third rate. They're third rate, so go fuck yourselves. Get over yourself. You've won one Super Bowl, and you choked away one, so cry about it.
Strong
Yeah,
words
so
on Pete Carroll there.
Pete Carroll's a piece of shit. He can go in fucking 98-year-old fucking they took out all of his freaking national championships and those Heisman Trophy, at least one of them Heisman trophies don't exist no more. So what the fuck did he do in college? Everyone acts like, oh, he's this great college coach. They went and took away all that. And when your owner's cutting checks to the officials, it also helps that way. And that also helped when they played the Niners all those times. Fucking
Yeah.
idiot. I hate that. I can't stand Pete Carroll. It's bad. Pete Carroll is such a disingenuous. Oh, there you go. Oh, I love Susie Colbert. There you go. She's looking good. She's like 50 something years old. Little MILF. Yeah, there you go. Elijah Mitchell sprayed MCL. Oh, lovely. Out maybe minimum 6 weeks, maybe season. Torn pec for TJ Watt. 6 to 8 weeks for Dak Prescott. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This has been a bad week. If you're for your fantasy team, if you drafted Dak Prescott, TJ Watt, or Elijah Mitchell, you probably got, oh man, they have Booger McFarland on this. Jesus. If Susie Colbert wasn't there,
Booger is
then
better than a lot of these guys give him, they give him credit for. I actually like his commentary.
Because he can enunciate.
He's better than I'm not. No, I just think
Randy Moss, because he's like better than Randy Moss or like Michael Irvin
no,
or those people.
none
Yeah.
of that. It's none of that. I just think that, I think his opinions when it comes to the game, I think he's got a good understanding of it, and he has a better way of describing it than some of these announcers. Not these talking heads, commentators, but the
Yeah.
actual game announcers. I thought,
The actual game
yeah,
announcers. Yeah.
yeah. I thought he did a
I
better
can
job on
I can
Monday
see
Night
that.
Football than because I think people didn't like him on Monday Night Football initially because he had the booger mobile or whatever it was called.
Yeah, and that probably doesn't help. I mean, didn't Detroit? Oh no, Detroit played. Okay, they're playing Washington. That's going to be a
Yeah,
tight game for sure. Yeah, Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean that's. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess that's one of the only times I guess we've deviated a year. So we'll give it. Oh, there's a double header on Monday night next week. Why? There's going to be a Monday. There's going to be a Monday game between Buffalo and Tennessee, and then a Philly Minnesota Monday game, which will be probably on ESPN. Uh, that's an interesting. Picking the Cincinnati Bengals for my drive to survive for this week. My picks, yeah, I'm picking it because I'm looking at it right now. I'm picking Cincinnati. Why can't I pick it? What, it's locked? The hell kind of garbage is this? All right, whatever.
all
Don't
right.
worry
Yeah,
about
we
it. I'm
gotta.
picking Cincinnati. So going into the IndyCar season finale, saw Alex Palou get the victory in Laguna Seca, and Will Power win the championship by 16 points over his teammate Joseph Newgarden. Will Power had 5 poles, and only one win, but he won the championship. Joseph Newgarden had 5 wins and 1 pole, but inconsistency outside of that cost him, and frustration for sure after the race, which was expressed in the after losing the race by what is it, about a second or so. And a session reports going box score. Let's go there. That's what we want. He lost the He lost the race by 30. Alex Palou won by 30.38 seconds over Joseph Newgarden. Will Power was 3.5 seconds behind his teammate there. Newgarden coming from 25th to second is insane at Laguna Seca. I mean, Max Pappas did that before, aided by cautions, of course. Felix Rosenquist, fourth. Christian Lundgaard, fifth, winning Rookie of the Year. Only 12 cars on the lead lap. Scott Dixon being the last one. Hurdle finished 11th. So what is it? Lundgaard, McLaughlin, Grosjean, O'Ward, Ericsson, Rossi, Herta, Dixon, all the lead lap cars. David Malukas, first car 1 lap down. Callum Ilott had a mechanical issue, went off the track. The only caution they had in the race because of that. So unfortunate end to what was a great qualifying by Callum Ilott. He was up front and led. But then after that, essentially on lap 16 was basically where the race turned. Alex Palou from there led most of the race. He led. He didn't get the fastest lap. Had to award got the fastest lap, but that's pretty darn good. Led 67 of the race's 95 laps. Will Power led 17 laps in between pit cycles, but essentially from lap 27 till the end was Alex Palou. Sans 5 laps for Joseph Newgarden. But I mean, Will Power was the most consistent guy this year, Josh. He did something that he wasn't known for back in the day. He used to be that guy that would always go for wins and let the points take care of themselves. Well, it almost was a switch within his team. Newgarden has been that guy. That's been that consistency guy who can win 2 or 3 races, get some poles, and do what he had to do. And that's why he's a 2-time champion and fell 16 points short of a third. And Scott Dixon, who's a GOAT, is that kind of guy too. But Will Power had some sort of like 180 shift during the off season and utilized that to go and get the championship. He only won one race this year, but at Detroit, but didn't really matter to him. He takes the win there and takes the championship win. Basically the qualifying was what did the deal. Newgarden starting next to last, Dixon being buried. There was really no chance. It would have needed a miracle. And it would need a miracle from one of them to come from the back to win, and Will Power to fall out, which it's Penske. They're not going to fall out of races that way. And then Alex Palou goes into this offseason, probably the most interesting offseason of his young life as a racer, with a win, probably the best performance he's had in an Indy car. And there might be talks of reconciliation. There might be a chance that he's going to be back in the Chip Ganassi 10 car next year, which is interesting. I guess that may come in part because McLaren has essentially hitched their wagon to 2 very young drivers in Formula One. One of their test drivers in Colton Herta might end up going to Formula One with the Red Bull development team. You have Pato O'Ward that's there. You have Alexander Rossi who's moving to that organization. And Felix Rosenqvist, ever since the Indianapolis 500 for the most part, has switched on and become the guy that multiple entities have thought he would become. And he's been running really, really well. And so McLaren's not really trying to lose him either, expanding to a 3-car team, Josh. So he had another great run this weekend. So credit to Power on a great season run. Moving into this offseason, a lot to look into. And then Alex Palou having to sweat where he's going to go right now. But maybe we kind of get it based on what some of the things that have come out here post-race from Zach Brown and his thoughts on Felix Rosenqvist.
Yeah, I mean, with this race weekend, I mean, first of all, Will Power getting his 68th pole in IndyCar and breaking the record with Mario Andretti. So, that was just the start of it. And then all he had to do from there was execute. And that's exactly what he did and finished third. And Joseph Newgarden, of course, had his issue in qualifying and spun out in the corkscrew and ended up being stuck. And that pretty much killed his qualifying run and, hurt his chances of, trying to go get a win. He was able to use strategy and everything to get up there, and he made a bunch of passes in the corkscrew too. Of course, one pass against Will Power in the corkscrew, and so you saw him driving aggressive throughout the race, but it just wasn't enough. And the fact that teammate finishing third is just not in the cards for him to win the championship. But overall, the very successful season for Joseph Newgarden, and I think if he had won at the second race at Iowa instead of spinning out and crashing out of that race, I think maybe this championship would have been a little bit different than that race, because remember that race was essentially a double points weekend with the IndyCar doubleheader at that race at Iowa, so that basically killed his chances there, or contribute to it at least. And if it weren't for that, I definitely think he'd be or at least have a better shot at winning the championship and everything. But Will Power, after many years, we've seen him lose his composure earlier in his IndyCar career, especially after joining Team Penske, and after his first championship, there was still the willpower that got emotional and lost his cool and lost his focus on the race. But this willpower had more of a Scott Dixon type of feel to his championship year. And throughout the year there were times where he was able to keep his cool and maintain position and finish, and he finally got that second title. So maybe buys him a little bit more time if he want however long he wants to stay in the 12th car with Penske and be able to stay there a little bit longer. I know that Penske tends to revolve through their drivers throughout the years, depending on how their performance is. So, now he's got 2 titles, so and an Indianapolis 500. So, very very successful career in IndyCar racing for him, and same thing for Newgarden, but Newgarden's lacking a 500 right now. So, we'll see. See what happens as we go in the future. How willpower, what he's able to do, whatever however many years he has left in this series. But as for other drivers like you mentioned, Palou, yeah, that may be a situation with Palou where it's just with Formula One and the potential of going there, they may just have too many seats or not enough seats for him, and so they have to give him back to uh, Chip Ganassi Racing, and then also with the lawsuit, we don't know how that's going to go, but the we'll see how they decide that civil case with the contract dispute between Ganassi and McLaren, and who has the rights to Alex Palou after this year. But yeah, this is it was a great year in IndyCar for the most part. A lot of good action throughout the year, no matter what the tracks. Continuing to prove why IndyCar racing is, I think, the currently the best form of racing overall. NASCAR has its moments, F1 has its moments, but I think IndyCar has a lot to has a lot going for it as far as competitiveness and being able to provide good racing throughout the entire season, and have a lot of variance throughout the field. So um, looking forward next year, what we see, as we get to the Indianapolis 500, as we get to St. Petersburg next year, what the series is going to look like, and all the drivers are going to be, and just the continued growth, I guess, from some of the younger guys in the series, and some of the seasoned veterans like Newgarden, like Rossi, even Scott Dixon. See what he came up short in this championship fight. Can he respond back and you know get this title after letting it basically get away from him after Indianapolis 500? So, and that pit road speeding penalty. So we'll see what happens next year. But overall, it was a fairly enjoyable season.
It's what the IndyCar series is all about. It's something that we're gonna miss because the IndyCar series this whole year was very competitive. I'm hoping that the schedule kind of balances out as we go along. I get they don't want to be against the NFL, and that's fine. But they should go and run in February, when NASCAR runs, right when, the NFL season ends, and then start their schedule, kind of spread races out every couple weeks from like the end of February on, and maybe get to a calendar that eventually gets to maybe 20 races. But of course, the money has to be there for that to all take place. But credit to willpower there, getting that result. Credit to Alex Palou with that great performance and victory, um, uh, which is something that we have been missing this year compared to what he had done last year in his championship run, with finishing second in the Indianapolis 500, of course. Um, I think if Chip Ganassi was smart at this point, he doesn't take risks. Though I'm going to talk about somebody here in just a moment that he probably could take a risk on and it would be good. He would sign below back. Jimmy Johnson doesn't seem like he's committed to running a full year in IndyCar. even though he has Carvana with him. He doesn't really have IMSA prospects with the new GTP formula at the moment because the Cadillac programs are committed to their two-car situation with what do you call Action Express with the 31 car, and then Chip Ganassi with their two cars. So I don't think so. Maybe he'll be able to run with Chip Ganassi, but those are full championship cars that they're running, and they have three cars there and are committed to making sure those cars are on the track. I don't know if there's extra spares to run a fourth car amongst either of those organizations. Action Express, I think, was the car team that was running that 48 car for Jimmy this past year. Linus Lundqvist won the Indy Lights Championship, but right now, as it stands, he doesn't have a ride based on the engines and the engine leases. Honda has their max. Jimmy Johnson decides he's not going to run a full season. That might change things up a little bit, give them an opportunity, give HMD the chance to keep one of their drivers and go and add to the current Dale Coyne Racing stable, make a three-car team. That's something to look at. What Jimmy's decision is, along with the Alex Palou mediation, how that will all end up. That will also play into a part with Felix Rosenquist. Will Takuma Sato continue? He has an option. Well, there's an option for him to continue, but that option would be at Dale Coyne Racing. If that's not the case, that car opens up. Linus Lundqvist probably gets into the 51 car, and they avoid the whole engine lease deal. Ed Carpenter Racing, of course, is going to keep their two drivers. That was one thing that we didn't know if Rinus VK might move on. He will continue along with Connor Daly and Simona Di Silvestro. I would assume we'll hear something about that between her and the Beretta Autosport team, and the fact that there's that third car which Ed Carpenter runs on the ovals. I think there will be a little connection there amongst those two organizations to share that entrance spot and run, maybe keep Simona out there, get her out there next year for a full season. Hopefully, that would be something to see. That would be great to see her out there. Junko Solander has a lot of players there. They got people from Indy Lights looking. You got the likes of Marcus Armstrong from Formula 2 looking at that. A lot of money, of course, in Formula 2 for guys that know that they're not going to get to Formula 1 for sure. As it stands, we're going to get into Formula 1 in just a moment, and Formula 2, Formula 3 right after that. But there are guys that probably will be out from abroad that would be in play for that second Junko Solander spot. And then when you see what Callum Ilott did on Saturday in qualifying, almost beating Will Power for the pole, there's potential there in that organization. So a lot of moving parts. Probably will get former guests on the show, Spencer Neff, here later once we have a little slower week, possibly to talk a little IndyCar and kind of go over all the things in silly season. Italian Grand Prix was, the usual. Max Verstappen gets the win. He gets the win by 2.4 seconds over Charles Leclerc, 3.4 seconds on George Russell. Of course, that was under yellow, just over 5 seconds on Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez finishes 6th. Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, Nick DeVries, Zhou Guanyu round out the top 10. So no points for the Renault, the Alpine team, because Fred Alonso had an overeating issue and had to retire. And Esteban Ocon wasn't able to pass and get himself up there into the points. Mick Schumacher last car on the lead lap in a weekend, which was a nightmare for the Haas F1 team. Ricardo, of course, fell out late, which was what essentially led to the end of the race. Lance Stroll had brake issues and had to retire. Sebastian Vettel had an engine issue 10 laps into the race. So his retirement tour going out in a whimper, in a sense, with now his last European round at a racetrack where he's had such great success, won his first career Grand Prix, only lasted 10 laps there. 6 rounds to go in the Formula One World Championship. Next one will be a couple weeks from now, 2-3 weeks from now at Singapore. Then they will run back to back with the Japanese Grand Prix, have a week off. They'll run 2 races in a row at Austin and Mexico City, a week off, and they'll run the last 2 races of the calendar in Sao Paulo and Abu Dhabi. But yeah, Max Verstappen dominated this race. He had a penalty. He had the penalty to start the race, engine penalty, 5-place grid penalty, but in the end, it didn't really matter because he came up from 7th and won that race with relative ease. I'm trying to find something that will actually give me a breakdown of the race itself, but whatever. Can't get that. Yeah, he goes and wins and adds to his points lead, of course. Josh, he's probably going to win the World Championship the next race in Singapore. Charles Leclerc basically has to, and Carlos Sainz as well, both of them have to think what might have been through this season, through what Ferrari had, which essentially is a second best car and at times has been the best car, to not have anything to be that far behind in both the drivers and constructors championship has to be quite disheartening for both of them and for the Ferrari organization. As George Russell, let's be fair, is only 16 points behind Charles Leclerc right now in the drivers championship, 7 points behind Sergio Perez. So, and Lewis Hamilton's making up ground too. So Mercedes is only 29 and 35 points behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. I mean, the Constructors' Championship essentially is done. It's going to take a little longer. But the Drivers' Championship, right now, Max Verstappen is 116 points ahead. For all those assholes that complained about how boring it was when Lewis was winning championships, he wasn't winning championships at the end of in early October when he won championships. Just to give you a little bit of insight for the Drive to Survive people. But yeah, Max Verstappen won from 7th. It wasn't that hard for him. He has the best car, best team. He's the best driver at the moment. I think this is basically what we're going to see for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think Max Verstappen continuing to dominate in Formula One. He's been dominating this year, and continue to expect him to, with his level of performance, again continuing to dominate this series, and it's looking more and more like his title now. He's not had a bad finish since the British Grand Prix. He ran. I'm looking at the standings on Motorsport, and I'm pretty sure that's the lowest finish he's had since the British Grand Prix. Or British Grand Prix was his lowest finish, but he's won the last.
I don't think
5.
he's won every race since then, or he's finished.
No,
Yeah,
but he's won the last 5 races. So he's been dominant this season. And meanwhile, competition, Charles Leclerc continuing to fumble the strategy with Ferrari, or Ferrari fumbling the strategy there. Sergio Perez being a good teammate for him. Um, so we'll see, how this plays out. But so far, it's this looking more and more like Max Verstappen's title, and I think for the rest of the field, it's just a matter of who finishes where in this title fight. But Verstappen leading the world championship title, and then I'm I think more interested in seeing where Sergio Perez, if he can finish second next to his teammate, and then just have Red Bull sweep the top two spots in in this championship. But I mean, as far as this race goes, you know it was it was fairly boring as a race. Didn't really catch too much of it until maybe about 25 laps in was when I got to it. But by then, uh, Verstappen's driving away from the field. There was a bit of time where Leclerc stayed out and led laps, but I think from the midpoint on, it was basically Verstappen's race. The only thing at the end, uh, that really made things interesting was Daniel Ricciardo's you know failure, mechanical failure in parking it on the backstretch of Monza there. So yeah, what a year for Daniel Ricciardo, going from winning this race a year ago, and then a year later being out of a ride now and having to be towed back to the pits, back to the garage for this race. So that's how things can go in Formula One. It's a very very good example of you don't keep your results up and don't continue to win, especially when you're the B driver of the team, not the A guy like Lando Norris or like Lewis or like Max Verstappen or like Leclerc. You're always can be expendable, and so far, Daniel Ricciardo's proven that he's expendable as a driver in McLaren, unfortunately. But um, yeah, it was the only interesting part of this race, and I think there's probably debates about whether he could have been a safety car, whether they should have restarted the race or not. And people, going back to the precedent of how they did it for the Formula One championship race, a year ago in Abu Dhabi. Could they have done it here? And they had precedent, but I think probably just better to not restart the race. Um, Potential for controversial finish or something like that. Although I think Verstappen probably would have timed the restart good, like he did in last race in the Dutch Grand Prix. So, that I think for the integrity of the series, maybe it's a better decision there to have a race under caution rather than go back to green white checkered finish or something like that. So, I think it's going to be interesting. With we have a situation like that again. What do they decide to do if they decide to uh, end it under yellow, or do they pull a book out of NASCAR's playbook and do another 1 lap or 2 lap shootout to end the race? So we'll see. We'll see if they decide to do it like that, or they go back to how they ended Abu Dhabi. But um, it was interesting though, with the uh, Daniel Ricciardo's car being stuck there, and how long it took for them to get it off the racetrack and everything. And I do, from a Formula One perspective, I would have expected they got it out of there faster, but I felt like that was a little bit slow. Maybe it was because he was in a more remote part of the track, but I think they could have definitely gotten his car off of the track faster. And then maybe if they did get his race car off the track there, then they would have thought about going green. But it was very very interesting scenario there to end the race, and a lot of people wanted to go back green, and then there's other people that wanted to go back, stay yellow. So um, a lot of decisions that they could have made there, but I ultimately feel like they made the right one. So Michael Massey's not running things in the race control anymore, so maybe they made the right decision there. But yeah, I mean this race wasn't very much, unless you're a Max Verstappen fan or you like to see Ferrari only come in second at their home racetrack with the special paint scheme or livery that they had for this race with the yellow, uh, special yellow paint scheme and yellow uniforms that they had for Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean the whole handling of that race right there. If they knew that they weren't going to be able to get the race back under green, which it doesn't seem like they thought that initially, you stop it. But the precedent was set in Abu Dhabi with the nonsense they did there. They were trying to get a green white checkered finish, um, and but then in turn they weren't able to. Uh, Also, in the grand scheme of things, they could have. The only way that Max Verstappen was going to lose that race is if Ferrari was given a V12 engine on top of their V6 engine, and they were given new tires, and maybe then they would have passed them. Like that, you'd have needed the ghost of Jean-Louis Schlesser. I mean, I know he's probably alive anyway, but still, to for them to win that fucking race. So it's like whatever. It's Formula One. It's becoming more WWE than it is about racing. Same as NASCAR in that part, but in a few weeks' time, Max Verstappen is going to have a chance to win his first legitimate world championship. So credit to him on that. When that eventually comes here in a couple 2-3 weeks time. But I mean, Formula One this weekend, the way they were handling the whole qualifying with all these people with their whatchamacall, grid penalties and crap, it just looks like low rent the way they do things. But we'll see what happens. I doubt that we're going to see anyone other than Max Verstappen win the rest of the year. Maybe Singapore, maybe Brazil. Excuse me. There might be. Those are really the only other two races that I can see where there would be a deviation. Rest of the tracks are very high speed, medium to high speed corners, tracks that have the regular downforce package, which of course fits the Red Bull better than anybody else. But we'll talk about that when that comes. Nick DeVries, Josh, I figure we should talk about that before we move forward. What a way to debut in Formula One. Former Formula E world champion for Mercedes EQ. Guy who's been in the Mercedes driver development program, of course, he's part of that. And connected, Lewis has been shown to give his congratulations to Nick DeVries, and Toto Wolff holds him very high. If I'm Nicholas Latifi, I don't think I feel very good about my ride. It wasn't just Logan Sargent existing and doing what he's been able to do in Formula 2 this year. If that didn't give him pause, or Zach O'Sullivan in Formula 3, when Nick DeVries jumps into the car in P3, or in free practice 3, runs a few laps, out qualifies you in qualifying, and could have out qualified Max Verstappen, who's going to be the world champion, if he had actually gotten a clean lap in Q3. I guess you're not going to have a ride anymore, buddy. You may want to start looking at IndyCar if you really want to have a career, or Formula E or something like that, because that right there is how you go and ace a job interview. What Nick DeVries did right there, minus some of his takes uh, on the likes of Colton Herta, and worrying about the integrity of the driver development system, the feeder system. Nick DeVries looks like he belongs in Formula One, and I think he's going to be in Formula One next year, based on what Joe Scapito said on Sky F1, amongst other things.
Yeah, I think for Nick DeVries, what a debut for him in Formula One. Then on the flip side, unfortunately for Alex Albon, what an opportunity. I guess, for Nick DeVries. Of course, Albon has appendicitis, and then I guess apparently respiratory failure issues or something like that. So that's a unfortunate issue, and hopefully he can get back to the racetrack and heal up as soon as possible. So he can continue to have his career. But Nick DeVries took advantage of that opportunity and was able to score points in this race. And he was able to get a ninth place finish in a Williams car, and we've seen ninth place finish. So we've seen Williams do really well with Alex Albon this year at certain points with being able to do strategy like they did like in Australia. But what a drive at the Temple of Speed, Monza, of course, with Williams being one of the slower cars on the grid, maybe slower than Haas was a year ago, and they've consistently been one of the lower finishing teams so far. This season, but getting an eighth place or ninth place finish, is great for that team, great for that driver. So, I think he's definitely gonna have a seat in Formula One, whether that's in um, Williams car or another car. I think he's definitely going to be there with that kind of debut. But I think for Nick Latifi, I'm not sure what his future is going to look like next year. And certainly, he can probably use his experience in Formula One and leverage that to another series. IndyCar. He could come to IndyCar and do okay. I mean, Max Sheldon came from Formula One, wasn't really that great in Formula One, and came to the United States in IndyCar and did all right for a couple years. So there's that possibility, or go race sports cars like what's his name from he used to be in Renault with Ricardo. He's super tall.
Jolyon Palmer?
No, not him. He raced.
Uh,
He won 20. Didn't he win Le Mans?
oh, you mean Nico
Nico
Hulkenberg?
Nico Hulkenberg, yeah.
Well, Nico
Yeah.
Hulkenberg is also in the news too, actually.
Yeah, he is, but I mean maybe he can be like Nico Hulkenberg and go race sports cars. So um yeah, maybe that's in the cards, but yeah, I think a solid move for Williams next year would to have, have Nick DeVries in one car and their other car with Alex Albon at least. So that would be a um solid pairing there if they decide to go in that direction. But yeah, what a debut for Nick DeVries here in Formula One.
Yeah, it's something we're going to see for sure. I mean, Marcus Ericsson made his predictions a couple months ago, and it looks like the vast majority of them are going to come true. The only two that I can see um, not being the case based on his predictions from a few months ago are that second seed um, at Haas, which we're talking the aforementioned Nico Hulkenberg might be in play for, and then amongst other people, Giovinazzi, which he's garbage, and I was gonna say Felipe Drogovic, but he just got signed by Stroll F1 for whatever reason. So I don't know why you do that. I would try to go and get a race seat before I would sign to be a development driver for Stroll F1 when he's not going to get rid of his son. And El Plan is the other driver who can't let it go because he's so jealous of Lewis Hamilton. Um, I mean, there's other people that are in play for that second Haas seat. Then when it comes to AlphaTauri, whether Gasly's leaving, whether Gasly's staying, whether you're going to have Colton Herta or not, that's a discussion. Then the Alpine second seat has been Gasly. People talk about Ricardo. I don't think Ricardo's in play. Um, the the new rumor is Jack Doohan possibly getting that, depending on his points, position, finish. here in Formula 2, which is something we can discuss since we're getting into the GSP Roundup. Formula 2 at Monza this past weekend in race 1 saw Yuri Vips, the real genius, win over Frederick Vesti. Jehan Daruvula, best finish he's had in a long time. He's looked lost for a bit. Big weekend for him. Logan Sargent started on the front row, bad start, but ended up finishing fourth. Richard Vashore finished fifth. In race 2, Jehan Daruvula gets the feature race victory over Frederick Vesti. Iwasa third, Enzo Fittipaldi fourth, and Dennis Hauger fifth. Felipe Drogovic fell out of race 1 because of Amory Cordial. Ironically, Amory Cordial finished behind Felipe Drogovic in race 2, 7th and 8th there. But the closest title challenger for Felipe Drogovic is Teo Pocher, and he was the last finisher on the racetrack on Saturday, finishing 17th, so no points for him. Teo Pocher in the in the feature race didn't even finish. He was involved in a first lap incident along with Logan Sargent, Luca Giotto, and Ralph Beauchamp, because Ollie Caldwell and Tatiana Calderon wrecked in the first chicane. So that was the races. There will be one race to go, as I mentioned, Abu Dhabi prior to Thanksgiving, final race weekend of the year. The standings going into that see Felipe Drogovic as the champion. He has scored points in every round this year in some way, shape, or form. Even when he's not had good days, he's still scored points. Teo Pocher, a brutal weekend. The last 3 rounds, 6 races, he scored a total of 4 points. He is now 30 points ahead of Logan Sargent, but more than likely Teo Pocher is going to have the points to have a super license, which will help him probably be the test driver next year for Alpine, which I think he's part of the Alpine Academy, or he's probably Ferrari. I don't know. If they were smart, they'd go and sign Teo Pocher to Alpine. I'm not sure. No, all the logistics with that. Logan Sargent is only a point ahead of Enzo Fittipaldi for that guaranteed third spot, and the super license points that would come. A super license that would come with that. Iwasa's in 5th, 6 points behind. Jack Doohan 7 points behind. Daruvla 8, Liam Lawson 11, and then that's really, and then you have the 16 points to Vesti. That's really the battle there. So from those 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drivers, last round of the championship is going to be huge. Yuri Vips getting that first the sprint race victory there, keeping himself kind of in the mix, 26 points out of third. But Teo Pocher essentially has gotten second place locked up, but the real battle is for third and to get the super license points or get the super license, and the possibilities that might open up for them in Formula 1. Formula 3, I don't know what the heck that was. That's not what. Copy. In Formula 3 was we had issues in race 1 for Kalen Frederick, one of the American drivers, but then that's kind of Hunter Yaney's the other one. Brad Benavides running how he does. Juan Manuel Correa had no points there, but Franco Colapinto gets the victory over Oliver Bierman. Kyle Collette, Zane Maloney, Johnny Edgars, Jack Crawford gets 7th. And race 2, Zane Maloney gets another victory in the feature race. Oliver Bierman, Jack Crawford, Victor Martins gets 4th place, Arthur Leclerc 5th. And it matters for Victor Martins since he finishes 5 points ahead of Zane Maloney, 6 ahead of Bierman to become the Formula 3 world champion. Well, Victor Martins, I would venture to say those 3 drivers will all be in Formula 2 next year in some way, shape, or form because they've all done pretty well for themselves. Isaac Hadjar, I would think as well. Roman Stanek. And those, I mean, to a point, maybe Roman Stanek, but maybe Isaac Hadjar. Those 4 drivers, I think, would have a chance to move to Formula 2 next year, and all those drivers have a lot of talent. Jack Crawford finishes 7th. Good year to move himself up in the ladder, hopefully, and maybe have a chance to possibly contend within the Red Bull organization. Juan Manuel Correa finishes 13th in points. Kush Mighty finishes 15th in points. He hasn't scored since what is that, in Hungary. So it's he's only scored at 3 rounds this year, which is pretty bad. Kalen Frederick hasn't scored points since Austria. Benavides only scored once, but he'll have the money. Sebastian Montoya might be somebody we have to look at next year in Formula 3 if they cut a check, if he's able to get a ride. Hunter Yaney, no points scored. A bunch of guys that didn't score any points in Formula 3. We'll see what happens with that. I guess as the end of this year comes along and early into 2023, we'll kind of see where those rides go and who they go to. WEC at Fuji Speedway saw the Toyota team win at the number 8 of Buemi, Hartley, and Hirakawa by just over a minute on Conway, Kobayashi, and Lopez. They beat the Alpine and 36 of Negral, Lapierre, and Vaxivier by 2 laps. The Peugeot had oil leak issues. Paul di Resta, Mikkel Jensen, John-Eric Verne, which cost them opportunity there. Sean Galale, Robin Franz, Dries Vanthoor wins in LMP2 over Roberto Gonzalez, Antonio Felix, DaCosta, Will Stevens. The latter 2, of course, Formula E drivers. DaCosta, former Formula E champion. Rasmussen, Ed Jones, Jonathan Aberdeen round out the podium in LMP2. And I'm going to scroll through here. Josh Pearson in the 23 car for United Autosport finished 9th overall. And what is it? 5th in class. Will Owen, 7th in class in the other United Autosport car. And the GT Pro saw the Ferrari team, the 51, Per Guidi and Collado over their teammate Miguel Molina and Antonio Fuoco win over the Porsche of Michael Christensen and Kevin Estre. And 4th was the 91 Porsche, Bruni and Leitz. The Corvette ended up being 2 laps behind in GT Pro. Tommy Milner, Nick Tandy. The other Peugeot kind of split up the GT Pro category. Ben Keating trying to win WEC championship. Henrique Chavez Jr., Marco Sorensen in the Aston Martin gets the victory over the Ferrari team, the Iron Dames team of Rahel Frey, Michelle Gatling, and Sarah Bovey, which has won at Monza the last race. They qualified on pole. So great performance there. And then Aston Martin, the 777 Aston Martin and GTM finishing third in that deal. There's one race to go, which will be Bahrain in November, so it'll be a while before we get to that. Only one car that didn't finish the race, the Christian Reed, Sebastian Priaulx, Harry Tinknell, Porsche, retired from the event. Every other car finished the race. Of the 36 cars, 35 finished at Fuji Speedway this past weekend. In regards to, it doesn't look like they have not updated the points on here. They have not updated points on motorsport.com, so that's a demerit on their part. They update that for other series. Manny Core World Superbikes, as I mentioned earlier, their controversy between two of the title rivals, Jonathan Ray, the 6-time World Superbike champion, and Alvaro Bautista, former world champion in Moto 2 or 250s and 125s. He was calling for a black flag on Jonathan Ray for his actions, but that didn't come. Then race one, Bautista won over Scott Redding and Axel Bassani. Alex Lowe's and Garrett Gerloff gets his best finish of 2022. And going through other, Raskat Lioku finished 11th. And then Johnny Ray fell out after a lap. So that was a big gain, but that gain went away soon after. Raskat Lioku wins over Alvaro Bautista and Johnny Ray in the Super Pole race. Lowe's Redding running out the top 5. Garrett Gerloff finishing 8th. And then in the Super Pole, I'm just curious. Yeah, Garrett Gerloff had the 10th fastest lap. In race 2, Raskat Lioku wins over Michael Rubin Rinaldi, Axel Bassani having a good weekend, Alex Lowe's, Johnny Ray finishing 5th, Redding 6th, Gerloff 8th. So the best weekend that Garrett Gerloff's had all year. Loris Bazzi, Kralakawona getting another top 10 finish for the Honda program. And the standings heading into Barcelona, which will be not this coming week, in 2 weeks' time. They'll be going to Barcelona. 20 points, the gap between Alvaro Bautista, or 30 points between Alvaro Bautista and Toprak Raskat-Lioku, who at one point earlier this year looked like he was out of the championship. Now he's right back into it. Johnny Ray trying to retake his world championship. 47 points behind in third. They're the guys. That's it. Ruben Rinaldi, Locatelli are battling for fourth. They're only a point behind each other. Bassani, Redding, Lowe's, Iker-Lackawanna are all separated by 11 points. Garrett Gerloff, after his best weekend, as I said, of the season, is now only 6 points behind Javi Vieje for 10th in the championship. He passed Loris Baz in the process as well. So hopefully with now 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 total races, 5 rounds to go, Gerloff can pick up some momentum. Iker-Lackawanna isn't really scoring a lot of points. The Honda program is a little step behind. That horse Shannon Sharp, 17-13 Seattle right now. So we'll see where the World Superbikes come. We'll talk about that next week for their next round in Catalonia, more than likely, or Barcelona, Catalonia. And then the V8 supercars, a lot of news coming out of there. But when it comes to the standings, I mean, it's all SVG. I mean, race one was an SVG. He finished fifth. Will Davison won over Andre Heimgartner and Cam Waters. Chaz Mostert, SVG, Anton Pasquale, Brock Feeney, Percat, Reynolds, Pye, your top 10. Race 2, SVG getting a home win over Chaz Mostert, Cam Waters, Will Davison, Scott Pye. Feeney was 8th, and that was that there. Race 3, SVG gets another one over Waters, Heimgartner, Feeney, Anton De Pasquale, Mostert, Pye, Reynolds, Percat, and Slade. 2 rounds to go. The next round will be next month, of course, is the big one, the Bathurst 1000. Then they have Surfers Paradise to end their season. There's going to be a little bit of a schedule kind of shift next year with the Supercars Championship in the COVID, getting out of, like, theoretically in and out of COVID time, trying to see where their championship will take them. Sandown is going to get back into their spot right before Bathurst and become the Sandown 500 and become an endurance race again as one for having co-drivers. So we'll see what happens with that. Schedule changes there. There's 320 points, I think, is the number there, I believe. I have to go and do my math here live on air. 320 points, yes, is Van Gisbergen's lead over Will Davison. Even after winning that first race, had struggles in the second and third races. SVG's lead over Cameron Waters, who's now in third, is 355. He has 360 point lead on Anton De Pasquale. I mean, it's going to take a miracle for, there's only 3 or 4 rounds to go, or 3 or 4 races to go total in the season. I think there's like double or triple points at Bathurst. He could actually win the championship at Bathurst if SVG repeats his victory there in the Great Race. NHRA will start their playoff in Maple Grove this coming weekend, and that's one where they've reset the points, and we'll see where people are at. I mean, the Capco team, Steve Torrance, coming off multiple championships in a row, they won a few weeks ago. They also won the Pep Boy Shootout call out, so they're in a good position. Brittany Force has been one of the best cars all season. They have a 20-point lead on Mike Salinas, 30 on Justin Ashley, 40 on the aforementioned Torrance, and 50 on Josh Hart. Only 10 drivers made, I don't know why. Yeah, so actually 12 drivers made it into the countdown. Clay Milk and Austin Prock are in there as well. So Antron Brown, Leah Pruitt, Sean Langdon, Doug Coletta, Tony Schumacher, Clay Milk, and Austin Prock. Clay Milk, and now, of course, involved with Rick Ware Racing to own that dragster, which will make things interesting. 12 drivers, 120 points. When you go and look at how many points you can gain in a round, I think 80 points or thereabouts in one race, but then that doesn't take into account, that's just on race day. It doesn't take into account playoff points or on qualifying points. and all that. So we will see how qualifying goes this weekend at Maple Grove. Records are possible if the temperatures stay cool. It's one of the best racetracks to go and set records. So something we could possibly see there. Brittany Force has set the fastest ever run at 1,000 feet there. In that's not what I wanted to do. In funny car, going into this weekend's race, Robert Height has a 20-point lead on the U.S. Nationals champion Ron Capps, looking for a second or third championship, I think, is what it would be for him. Because Ron Capps is won. Yeah, he won bio. That's on 2020. Yeah, he got a second world championship. There you go. Yeah, so he went from having no championships a few years ago to now he is a 2017 second in defense. Yeah, 2016 and 2021. So now Ron Capps going for that third championship after getting over the hurdle, which was the U.S. Nationals. So now he's free. He's his own team owner. 20 points back. Matt Hagan driving for Tony Stewart. 30 points back. Bob Tasca fourth. John Force going for number 17. 50 points out. J.R. Todd, Alexis DeJoria, Cruz Pendragon, Tim Wilkerson, Blake Alexander, and Jim Campbell, your 11 drivers that are in the countdown going into this weekend's race at Maple Grove. 15 drivers are eligible in pro stock, but really it's about Eric Anders, Aaron Stanfield, Greg Anderson, and then Kyle Koretsky, who's one of the owners of Maple Grove Raceway with his dad and family, Dallas Glenn, and Troy Coughlin Jr. The battle between the Elite Motorsports team and the KB Racing organization. Look out for Camry Caruso. She's essentially one of the only people. Hartford has connections along with the whole Quadra family, Kramer and Butner. I mean, Butner is KB. Kramer, I think, is Elite. Hartford, I think, is KB, or might be Warren Johnson. But so the McGahays are doing their own program, but Camry Caruso is the only one that isn't connected to any of these teams. So look out for her, trying to see what she can do, stay in the top 10 in points. In her first full year on the circuit, Pro Stock Motorcycle, only the top 10 make it in. I guess the rest of them guys didn't really run every race, so Matt Smith has a 20-point lead on Joey Gladstone, 30-point lead on Steve Johnson. Matt Smith swapping between his Buell and his Suzuki. Otherwise, after that, you have a bunch of Suzukis, Gladstone, Johnson, Angel, Sampieri, Craywick, Karen Stouffer. And also Matt Smith coming off of another U.S. Nationals win. Angie Smith still riding the Buell. Savon, a Suzuki, Ingwerson on Buell, and then Ryan Ayler. Not really sure what Ryan Ayler's riding, but he's in the playoff. He got in, so see what happens there. It's going to be a tight battle. I think those Vance and Hines bikes are going to be tough. You can't count out Jerry Savoie or his teammate, Karen Stouffer. Steve Johnson wants that championship. And you have Joey Gladstone riding for Corey Reed on the Suzuki. But Matt Smith. He's one of the best ever. His dad, he keeps on holding on for dear life, trying to go and run until he's about 900 years old. He's still in the point standings, like 80 points out behind Chris Dorn in the Pro Mods. So, gotta give him credit on that. Yeah, Bill Skillman's in there with factory stock. Aaron Stanfield's third. Mark Powick, blast to the past in the pro stock category, running the uh, Summit Racing car back in the day. And then we'll finish up the roundup with MotoGP and Moto2. The standings heading into this weekend's race at standings heading into this weekend's race at in Spain. See Fabio Quartararo up by 30 points on Pecco Bagnaia. Pecco Bagnaia running on a heater here recently, winning 4 consecutive races, and every time he stayed on the bike in the last in 9 races, and in that last 9 races, he stayed up on the bike 6 times. Every single time he stayed up on the bike, he has won. So he has made it interesting. Pecco Bagnaia in 2 of the instances where, Quartararo in 2 of the instances that Bagnaia fell off, he won. Finished 4th in France at another race where Quartararo, or Bagnaia. I don't know why I'm mixing up the names that bad, but Quartararo finished 4th over Bagnaia, who didn't score any points. That was a win for Enea Bastianini. And then in, I assume that's Austria, there was where Quartararo did not get or Dutch Grand Prix. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was Assen. Bagnaia wins, and that was where his run started there. Teams Championship, Ducati has 25-point lead on Aprilia. In constructors, Ducati, they have strength in numbers. There's just no way. Yamaha is 110 points back, and Aprilia is 120 points back. So Ducati's going to win that one. In Moto2, just going back to the last race, the last race was at Misano. Saw Alonso Lopez win over Aaron Canet and Augusto Fernandez, who got a podium and also is going to be going to MotoGP. Alberinas Ayagura round out the top 5. Joe Roberts finished 9th. Cameron Bobier got points in 14th. So credit to him on that. Sean Dillon Kelly actually was close, and he had an accident with 7 laps to go. I'm pretty sure he was up there. Celestino Vietti had to retire from the race, running up in the points as well. Big guy there. You got Navarro, Della Porta, et cetera. The standings going into this weekend's race, Augusto Fernandez is 4 points ahead of Ayagura. So that's the championship battle right now. Celestino Vietti falling out, even though early in the year he had, 3 wins and 2 second place finishes with 2 non-point scores. Since his win, I don't know how many rounds ago. Trying to go and scroll through here. He had that win in Spain and Germany. Since then, he's had a 4th, a 6th, and 2 non-point scores. You have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 races to go. Celestino Vietti still has a chance to maybe sneak through. He's going to need some help, though. Those are really Aaron Canet, Celestino Vietti are the 4 riders that are still really in contention. Joe Roberts is only 2 points out of 5th. in the championship. No MotoGP opportunities this for 23, but with a good run to finish out this year and maybe get some energy there, he could possibly posting an opportunity to get himself into MotoGP in 2024. Cameron Bobier is only 2 points behind Jeremy Alcoba. He's 6 points behind Sam Lowe's, who's finishing top three in the Formula 2 champion or Moto 2 championship. If he can go and put some good rounds together here to end the season, I don't think top 10 is possible, but he can get himself in the top 15 for sure, solidly. He's only 21 points out of 13th. So that is that for the GSP roundup. Josh, I'll throw to you. You've had a little while to wait. You can go and talk about your Jacksonville Jaguars, and also fantasy. I've been trying to make some moves on my end in fantasy since my teams are going to go 0-3 as it stands in fantasy, and then my actual team also lost too. So,
Yeah.
how about you guys?
I mean, for me, the Jaguars, of course, lost on Sunday to the Washington Commanders. They lost 22-28. They started out the game, got a field goal first quarter, and then Commanders got 2 touchdowns to go up 14-3. And then Jaguars came back later on the game and eventually made it 22-14. But then the Broncos, not the Broncos, I'm watching the Broncos right now, but the Commanders got 14 points unanswered. So, this was a tough game, on both sides. The Jaguars had issues protecting the ball, protecting Trevor Lawrence. They had issues on defense, in getting pressure and in coverage for some parts of it. Although later in the second half they played better defensively, but first half was too much for the amount of money that they put into this team. This game was a lot on the lot for the Washington Commanders to win. New quarterback for them, Carson Wentz. But the Jaguars, they failed to win the game, which is all that at the end of the day is all that matters. But Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he looked okay, but he could have played better. So we'll see throughout the season if he can improve. But some people, maybe it's time to go back on the generational talent. This is a can't miss prospect. I think he's be great, can be very good, but maybe he's not like ultra elite like Peyton Manning or anything like that, or Tom Brady. Maybe people had too much or too high of expectations, maybe, but that comes with the first overall pick, being the first overall pick last year. So for Trevor, got to be better in the pocket, have better pocket presence, and he's got to process the game a little bit better. I thought he did a better job of that last year, but last year was last year, and now it's this year, and you got to see those improvements, and some of those improvements still waiting on it. But we'll see what Trevor does throughout the year. I think I don't think it's time to panic. Some people are already panicking, saying he's not the guy, but it's only the first game of the year. But comparison, Josh Allen, first 2 years weren't great. Then year 3, all of a sudden, he's one of the guys. And this year, or last year and this year, he seems like he's the guy now. So there's plenty of time, but still got a long ways to go. He's not not expected to be a Pro Bowler right now, but we'll see what happens. And definitely got to have a lot more touch on the ball. The first quarter, first drive, missed a wheel route to Travis Etienne in the end zone, overthrew him. So he's got to work on the touch. the missing some guys, but I think he played okay overall. James Robinson came back great. They should have ran the ball more. I mean, running the ball is always good. It goes back to 2017 when they had Blake Bortles and Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone said he would run the ball every play if he could, and I agree with that statement. I would rather watch 3 yards in a cloud of dust on every single play and just grind it out throughout and burn as much clock as possible, and just take the soul away from the other team's defense and just continue to dominate them. And then instead of getting a touchdown, you kick a field goal, and then defensively you stop them or get negative yardage, and then get the ball back, and then score as efficiently as possible, but burn as much time on the clock. That's my philosophy when I play Madden. Try to run the ball as much as possible, and I think they should do that more often because they had 6.5 yards per carry for average for James Robinson, and then Travis Etienne also ran the ball pretty well, and he was very effective when he has the ball in his hands. So they should lean on the running backs a lot more, and feature them definitely a lot more than what they did on Sunday. Although maybe the balance got out of hand because they balance, the team got behind early, so when you're down 14-3, you have to start passing more to get back in control of the game, which they did later on, but then defensively they couldn't hold it up at the end. But it's week 1, we'll see what happens. They played the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday. We'll see if they can get their 7th win at home against the Colts. It's become a meme at this point that Frank Reich can't win in Jacksonville. We'll see if that continues to be the case. There's just something about Jacksonville where the Colts can't overcome it for whatever reason. So, we'll see. We'll see if they can win. Jaguars can win their home game debut for 2022, and we'll see if they can improve upon their defeat from this week. So, still think they can get a good number of wins, and I actually did place a bet on the Jaguars yesterday for the game. I only placed $10, and in all honesty, it wasn't a very good bet because I was only going to get back $3. But I was like, I can place $10 here. That's not really much, and we'll see what happens. But just as a kind of a test, I've never actually made any bets before, so I'm not going to go like throw $100 or whatever, like that. Play small and have small consistent returns, I guess, is what I'm looking for when it comes to any kind of betting. But that's how it was yesterday, fantasy wise. I had a diverse roster that turned out well. Got good playing time out of all my players, and scored pretty close to what I was projected to score. And then on the other side, Vic put all his eggs in the basket on Cowboys Buccaneers and paid for it. Especially Dak Prescott, not playing well. Tom Brady didn't play well either. Leonard Fournette was the only guy that I think he had who really played well there. But that's maybe a good example of why you don't place all your players into one game like that. So we'll see how that looks like when it comes down to the playoffs. When we get to seeding and who's home advantage or number 1 overall or whatever. On that. But I guess when you have a roster like that, I'm expecting Vic is going to make like a billion trades this season like he did last year. I don't know. Maybe we need
Well,
to. Yeah.
he's already rejected at least multiple trades. We were doing trades
Oh.
during this episode,
Oh my
and he
God.
rejected multiple
Wow.
trade options that I sent him because he wasn't trying to. I guess he wasn't that interested in Trevor Lawrence. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he's getting rejected early, so um, I mean, that's entertaining, and we'll see what kind of trades come about. How many notifications I'm gonna get from his team saying that he wants to propose a trade, and trade three players for my 3 players or whatever. So looking forward to hitting the reject button on that unless I really need somebody. So we'll see. But solid week of fantasy. This is my only fantasy team. I had talked about another fantasy team, but I guess I missed the signups or whatever for that, so that's okay. I feel like I'd rather just manage one team that I'm paying money for. So this be the team I'm play fantasy for, and um, we'll see how it goes throughout the year. But so far looking solid. But we'll see what next week brings, and hopefully we don't have any injuries, and all my players are productive.
Yeah, I mean, I figure there'll be like whatever weekly or I mean, there's probably options elsewhere, but I have three teams, and as it stands, I'm taking 3 L's, and in one league, I'm going to be the next to last in regards to scoring. That league, I'm looking for a backup option because I had Dak Prescott, but the reality is my actual backup is ayahuasca. So I at least know that he'll be able to do something. I'm debating who I should pick up behind him, or I might just leave it alone for a while and just fade it because the fact is, um, I don't theoretically have to worry about it because Aaron has a late buy, but my team behind him was pretty god awful. T. Higgins didn't do shit and got hurt. Concussion, so lovely. Yeah, that's beautiful. David Montgomery did nothing, which of course I knew was going to happen. Damian Pierce didn't do anything. DeAndre Swift and Cooper Cup did all right. Dallas Goddard did meh in a game where it was a 38-35 game for Philadelphia, which makes no sense. Uh, that's just disappointing. Um, Hoping for better there. I'm gonna probably have to play Hollywood Brown, which is not great against Las Vegas, and then David Montgomery, who that shitty ass offense against Green Bay. It's asking a lot. Um, it's going to be a long year with this team for sure, as it stands. But at least I have a roster spot open. So I have 0, 1, or I don't know. Yeah, everyone. Yeah. So yeah, and that in regards to my main team, up 4 Adams because I sim for K Adams. We scored okay, nothing great. I left Michael Thomas on the bench, which I won't do probably for the rest of the year. Um, I mean, I said that. I guess I was mixing up my teams. I mean, Javonte Williams as a flex on Monday Night Football against Seattle, you would have hoped would be able to do more. But in the grand scheme of things, 2 minutes ago, he's had 18.8 points. He's been able to do stuff on both receiving the ball and running the ball. Um, my running backs don't look horrible. My wide receivers, top 3 wide receivers, don't look horrible. Just ran into a bad matchup this week with Professor J, who had freaking 45 points from his guy, who's the likely MVP, and Josh Allen, uh, nearly 20 points from Gabe Davis, Buffalo. So 2 Buffalo guys, and then 32 points from Devontae Adams, who had 10 for 141 and a touchdown in a loss, no less. And then Matt Ryan scored 26.8 points because they went to overtime, which helped. Uh, I lost 4 points. There are nearly 4 points there in the flex, super flex position. My IDPs basically balanced out. My tight end, I got no points from Cole Kmet because Cole Kmet sucks, but he had Dawson Knox, who also sucks. and just got broke off for $53 million, which must be nice. Really, the difference was Josh Allen. Once we really get into it, it's Josh Allen and Devontae Adams is the reason why I lost this week in fantasy. I don't have a bad total, but I'm going to be on the bottom 5 as it stands because there's 1, 2. No, actually, yeah, unlimited. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to fall short to Wilson there, so it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll end up being 6th. So I'll take double L. Joe's going to get 2 L's. Josh had a low score, but gets a win, so he'll be 1-1. So not so bad for him because he ran into the right matchup in Vic, who shit the bed. So we'll keep you posted in regards to fantasy football as we go along through this season and what happens with that for sure. But before, and I mean, for the Niners, unfortunately, brutal matchup, and not because it was a tough team. It was a worst of the worst scenario. Bad weather, a bad game plan, undisciplined play in multiple areas, missed opportunities, and you lose a game you probably should have won. You got shitty third-rate people that I'd never heard of for the Bears talking shit about Trey Lance like he's a bum. He ain't a bum, but he's a rookie, essentially. So it is what it is. I'm disappointed. I was hoping for a win there. I think there's a lot of decisions they made across the board that could have helped allowed a possible victory there, but when you're making mistakes and putting yourself in the line of fire to possibly get called for bullshit penalties, you're asking for trouble. You need to go out there and play to win. You need to execute. Trey took it on the chin. He took responsibility for it, showing that he is a leader. And Russell Wilson ran for that one. But it's something that we'll have to see. Seattle is putting up a fight here on Monday Night Football. They're going to be kicking. Yeah, it's a third down. Yeah, so third and long. So trying to win this football game in Seattle. But it's something you have to fight. You have to be willing to fight. And the Niners, I think, didn't have the fight yesterday to win that football game, unfortunately, and it's probably why they lost. You can't give an opportunity to a team that has no offense. When Cole Kmet got 0 points yesterday, it tells you that they don't have an offense. Their running game was barely existent. Nick Bosa left very displeased. I'm sure he could have went and done an insurrection on freaking Justin Fields, and maybe that would have helped not have him score 2 touchdowns. But it is what it is on that. It's fine. You need to have those character building losses, and hopefully there will be character. Peyton's trying to call timeout. Peyton is literally hand gesturing for timeout. They're not calling a timeout on 4th down. They finally called a timeout and they wasted a ton of time.
Nate Hackett.
Oh my god.
Can't hack it.
Well,
Russ,
at least
okay.
Yeah. At least he's just like his dad. His dad was good for that sort of shit too. Back when he was the Jets offensive coordinator. So
yeah.
I mean, you had that too when he was the Jacksonville.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was just a bunch of deep fades and deep crossers and play action and everything. Which I haven't watched this game enough to see what kind of offense they're running right now. But
I don't think the offense has been that bad. I think what it's been is just bad management of time and then putting Russell in bad spots because the fact is their offensive line is not as good as it needs to be. And you add the notion of Seattle knowing, did he just miss a field goal?
No.
They called a timeout. Okay, fine. They just called their last
Why would
timeout.
they? That's just not a good setup. All right.
So I'm gonna
I don't
go
like
and
this
finish
setup.
out my point.
Yeah,
Yeah, the notion
it's just
of
too
before
far.
we get into your, I mean, what is it, 65? I mean,
They're
he's
Did
made
they
the
forget they're
longest
not
field
in
goal.
Denver?
Yeah, I mean, he's made the longest field goal ever. And Seattle, you can make longer field goals. There's no um like crazy bad weather, but it is a long field goal. He got under that one. He still missed it. Game over. That's all right. Freaking Peyton, like living and dying by every Denver. Yeah, that tells you what team he simps for. That was a bad loss by Denver, and that gives Seattle energy going into um, in a Santa Clara next Sunday afternoon for a 4:25 start. They'll be 1-0 while the 49ers are 0-1. All the Seattle fans that are shitting on Russell Wilson. It was an uninspiring performance by Denver in certain areas for sure,
I
but
mean, Seattle's
um,
like borderline one of the worst teams in the league right now, and they managed to get a
yeah,
win.
that's another that same way as the Niners. The NFC West went 1-3 or 1-3
Well,
this week,
yeah,
and
the
the only team that won is the Seattle Seahawks.
law of averages.
So we will see. Nate Hackett's fighting about something. Game's over
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Uh,
AFC South went 0-2-2.
so the point is, 0-2-2, which means the Indianapolis Colts and Houston Texans are leading by a quarter of a game by over the Jacksonville Jaguars and the um, what is it? What the hell's the other
And the
team?
Houston Tech and the Tennessee Titans. Titans
And the
missed a
Tennessee
field goal.
Titans.
Yeah, they missed a game-winning
Yeah.
field goal, and yeah, I guess well, people
Against
in
the
your
Giants
area,
of all
the
teams.
Giants. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good lord.
yeah,
Oh, I'm glad I missed. I missed that. Oh, that was or no. I heard. Oh no, I heard it and I walked out. I did. I ignored it and then freaking the first game in the new regime for the uh, Buffalo Bills light regime that they have with the New York Giants. Won. Yeah, my God.
yeah,
But Saquon Barkley is probably a big reason why that happened yesterday, um,
yeah. And then
because he looked like Saquon Barkley.
yeah, Saquon again. And then also last point on that, Steelers, the Steelers and the
Cincinnati
Cincinnati
Bengals. Oh
Bengals,
my
they
God.
that was a pretty tight game too, and they like I was looking at the scoreboard, and they're both that game and the Colts game were both tied at 20 in overtime, and I honestly thought that they would see two
It'd
games
almost be a tie,
tie and both have the same score, and
which would have
I'm all
been
for
like
it.
some sort of numerology.
Yeah, I'm all for it. We could have like everybody tie. That would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a tie, but Houston. Well, the thing is, Cincinnati should have won the game, but they had high snaps, at least on two kicks that cost them. And you only hear about the long snapper when they fuck up, but that's literally what happened. The long snapper was fucking up. Evan McPherson, who's one of the best kickers in the NFL, had issues. Chris Boswell, who's been around in Pittsburgh forever, he missed at least one kick uh, where he could have won a game, and that kind of didn't help their cause. So, I mean, Pittsburgh winning that one, it's going to be an interesting division. Baltimore's already lost Kyle Fuller for the year. They've lost a couple players for the year. Cincinnati losing that game, it's going to piss them off. Pittsburgh getting that win, they're going to have to fight every week. And then Cleveland got a win against Baker Mayfield in Carolina, or against Carolina. So they're just trying to fight to when sexual molester gets to come back in week 13 and put themselves in a position to have a chance. My God, Geno Smith fired up on Monday Night Football getting interviewed by Lisa Salters. Christ almighty. Must be like a West Virginia game. Must be like having some sort of flashback. How the fuck did the Denver Broncos lose to the Seattle Seahawks? What a joke. My goodness. Let's get into the truck series or through all the NASCAR. We have 3 races we have to pick and make our picks and our previews for Bristol this weekend. So it's a round of 8 for the truck series. One driver will miss the field. The 90 truck, I assume, would be that truck that would miss the field. The Reum brothers don't have drivers for either of their vehicles. 20 for Youngs doesn't have a driver. The O2 for Youngs doesn't have a driver. So that's something we'll hear later in the week. But 37 for 36. We have 8 drivers left in this playoff format. I'm trying to look. Rajah Caruth is driving for Spire in the 7 truck. After that, I'm trying to look for Taylor Gray will be in the 17. 51 will be driven by Corey Heim. After, and Parker Kligerman will run, of course, in the home game for Henderson Motorsports in the 75. Other than that, nothing of great significance. I guess Timmy Hill driving the 56. I think he's been running it all year anyway, though. And I think his brothers ran it a few times, but Josh, who do you look at to win this race on Thursday or Friday or Wednesday or whenever the fuck they're running it? Do you see somebody outside of the playoff winning it? If not, who do you see winning it? And then who's a wild card for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think playoff drivers look at the one of the top 4. I'm gonna roll again with Chandler Smith. Uh, he won, or well, didn't win last week. The other team, John Hunter Nemechek won, but I still think the KBM cars are really good. You could also go with the Zane Smith, but I'm gonna go with the Chandler Smith for Bristol for the truck series. Other playoff drivers to look at. I have to pull up the standings. Other drivers, possibly looking here at the standings, driver points after reset. Uh, maybe maybe Christian Eckes. I think he's or Grant Enfinger. Those are guys that you can look at potential contenders of the second half of the playoff drivers. I think not Corey Heim, but Tyler Ankrum, Derek Kraus, they could potentially be wild cards on short tracks. I'm gonna go with Derek Kraus as a guy in the short track. He's been not really that great. This year, he's 11th in the standings, but he can. Maybe he's somebody that can finish in the top 10. He's been solid at other tracks, so let's see if he can, be something of worthiness here at Bristol. But yeah, I feel like I haven't seen the Truck Series in a long time at Bristol, so it's hard to tell. But um, the should be interesting, especially now that it's the round of 8. Things are going to get a little bit tighter. Maybe we see some more aggressive moves from the guys that are in 5th through 8th place, as they try to get a win at Bristol, lock themselves in early. Don't have to worry about the stress or anything. So go to other tracks like Talladega, at, as an example, getting locked in early. You don't have to worry about getting wiped out in a crash later on, before they go to Phoenix. So, we'll see what happens though.
Oh, who is your wild card there?
Derek
I
Kraus.
didn't. Kraus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked Derek Kraus. I picked the wrong McAnally driver there last week. Just to go and kind of review last week's picks. Josh, as usual, seems to hit them better than I do. He picked Bubba Wallace Jr. as his wild card. I guess he was manifesting that, so good on you on that. Darrell Wallace Jr. was racing Brad Keselowski, who was my wild card. I fucked up on that one. Martin Truex Jr. was my winner pick, and Josh picked Young Money. We picked everybody, I think, we picked 2 of the 4 junior motorsports cars, but neither of them were Gragson. I picked Keebler Gibbs. He finished 2nd. We picked the Smiths, which might be a precursor or something. In the trucks last week, you picked T. Burrito, as I mentioned earlier. You actually picked Callum Ilott as a wild card, which was a good pick up to early in the race on Sunday, and it went to hell.
Yeah.
You did pick you picked Will Power as your champion, and you were right. So good on you on that. My picks for the race at Bristol, I'm going to pick Zane Smith to win. And then wild card will be, that's the question. Who is my wild card going to be? Because now it's anybody outside of the playoff drivers. I guess we can make it that way. Oh, so there's McAnally's actually bringing another truck. That's interesting. I didn't see that. My computer might have froze. I don't know if I'm still on. Just let me know.
You're here.
Okay. Because everything else is frozen on my end. My mouse is like off, or I have to go. Okay. So I'm gonna have to do this by hand because my mouse ain't working anymore. Great thing about having a touch screen. So I didn't notice that Jake Garcia is gonna run a 3rd McAnally truck, number 35. So that's interesting. My wild card for this weekend's race is Ty Majeski. He's a guy that, it's not just because I've been a fan of his for a while. He's a short track racer by trade. He's won all the big races in super late models. He's a great driver. To be fair, when you look at the point standings, he's gonna need help to make the final 4. If he can go out there at Bristol and win and go and get the victory, I mean, it would be a huge victory for that organization. I'm trying to, so I guess the battery might have died. That might help. So I don't have a mouse anymore live on air, but I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to go and stop myself from finishing out this show here because of that. Let's get into the XFinity series. It'll be a Food City 300. So it'll be 300 lap race this coming weekend. a lot of drivers. So 38 spots, but 41 drivers for 38 spots. Got some interesting names here. Bobby McCarty, who's a late model driver in the Cars series, running against Junior Motorsports. So he's getting his debut in the NASCAR Big Three series. Brandon Brown will be driving the 5 car for BJ McLeod. Sage Karam, who's moving over to Our Motorsports to drive the 02. So he's going to be running out a lot of the rest of the races here in the Xfinity series. So that's something to look at. Joe Graff is actually back for whatever reason. Sammy Smith in the 18. Jeffrey Earnhardt in the 26 for Sam Hunt. Kyle Weatherman at least to qualify. We'll see if Jesse Uji wants to go and run and be terrible as he always is. Emmerling running for himself, number 35. CJ McLaughlin in the 38. Ryan Seig, of course. Ryan Ellis in the 44. Stephen Parsons in the 45. 47 has no driver. Nick Sanchez will be in the 48. I mentioned him earlier. The Means Motorsports team actually put in an entry this weekend, so we'll see who's going to drive that. Yaley in the 66. Chris Wrong in the 68. Ronnie Bassett, 77. Mason Massey in the 91. David Starr in the 08. Chad Fincham in the 13. Matt Mills in the 78. Josh Williams in the 92. So we have to get into who do we think is going to win at Bristol. Well, I'll go out on a limb. I forgot Joe and Troy are announcing Monday Night Football. But yeah, they're announcing Monday Night Football. It's crazy to think that. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go and say Josh Berry wins. It's been a while for him. He needs a victory. It would be a good momentum booster for him. I can't go out and pick a Collie car. I would have wanted to pick Emmerich or Castle, but they don't have the speed. It's speaking towards a certain team, and I think you might go there, Josh, but I think Barry comes out there. It's a good track for Junior Motorsports in general. Allgaier's always done well there in the Xfinity series. And I think it's a good spot for him to go and get that win. In regards to a wild card pick, my wild card pick is Sheldon Creed. So I'm going full fandom. I'm going full. No joke. I'm just going full fandom on my picks, and I'll go and type. And Josh is typing it in for me, so thank you for that. Who are you picking, Josh? Once you're done, you let me know when you're ready to go. You're ready to go. You let us know who your picks are for Friday night's Food City 300 on the Bristol Concrete.
Yeah, make this easy. I'm gonna go with the hot hand here in the series and pick the other Junior Motorsports car and Noah Gragson. Pick him. I think he can win Bristol and win his 5th race of the year. So Ty Gibbs for Xfinity lead and series wins for the year, and put himself in a position to be really good for the playoffs and potentially be there at the end for the Xfinity Championship. Wild card. I'll go with. It's pretty tough here. A lot of slim pickings here. I feel like there's a really good cream of the crop, for the Xfinity series, and then there's not much after it. But you're picking Sheldon Creed. Well, I will pick Ryan Seig, since Ryan Seig is trying to defend his way into the playoffs. So he's trying to make it in, and he's got to keep Sheldon Creed from making it in. So I'll pick Ryan Seig, to be a wild card and race his, keep his position in the playoffs. And as we go to, Bristol and be in or start the playoffs after that.
Just give me a second here. I'm going to go and finish the post there. Gragson the win and Seig wild card. I mean, there are probably a couple other guys probably could have went with wild card wise. Could have been a little more. I think Sammy Smith might be somebody to look at for the wild card with the 18. He's been up there.
Yeah.
He's had pace. If he can qualify up front, he has a chance there. Nick Sanchez, that 48 cars won with Tyler Reddick, of course, and last week Ross Chastain finished top 5 in a limited amount of laps. But that car is good. That's another one.
For me, wild card pick is more of a, relative to their performance, kind of thing. And based on,
well, I'm not talking about your pick, but I'm kind of throwing it out there as well as a couple other people.
Yeah.
We ended up hedging with the points. We made it interesting in regards to the points battle because essentially whoever is the better of those guys is going to make the playoff. And then when it comes to Gragson, he has 5. If he goes and wins, he'll have 6 wins. He'll have the most wins going into the playoff. If Josh Berry's able to win on Friday night, it'll be a big momentum booster. Bumgardner's about to take over running the organization. So this is his last hurrah on the road, trying to go and get a championship, knowing that Josh Berry will be back next year. Essentially, 3 of the 4 rides at Junior Motorsports are set. The 1, 7, and 8 are all going to be back. It's just who's going to be in the 9 car next year at Junior Motorsports. So the big one is now the Cup Series night race at Bristol, Bass Pro Shops night race. By the time we get there, we're going to have the big announcement, more than likely, that Kyle Busch is going to be driving for Richard Childress Racing. When you consider that Richard Childress removed his watch and wanted to shove his fist in Kyle Busch's ass many years ago, now he's going to be driving for Richard Childress, which seems like hell is freezing over. It's a pretty big deal. And there's only 36 cars, so no problem in regards to qualifying. The bigger question, though, let's go that. Josh Bilicki will be in the 77. EJ McLeod will be in his 78. Ty Gibbs in the 23. AJ Allmendinger in the 16 car. And JJ Ailey in the 15 for Rick Ware. So, Bristol night race. It's a wild card race in a lot of ways, but now it's a cutoff race in the playoff. Josh, you get first dibs, winner, wild card, and then the bigger question, who gets knocked out of the playoffs here in round 1 after Saturday night's race at Bristol?
Well, I like the trend that we're on now with winners, the first 2 winners being non-playoff or at least non-driver playoff contending guys. And I want to continue that trend. And so obviously this leads to me saying that I believe Martin Truex Jr. will win at Bristol. I feel like, he's done a good job on, as of late. But he just didn't have the results to make it in, and he should have been in the playoffs anyways. So I think he's been generally good at Bristol or at short tracks, and I think he can finally get a win here. So let's go 3 for 3 drivers not contending for the championship, drivers championship. Winning the race, keeping playoff drivers from winning, which makes it really interesting for for this playoff, as far as especially with elimination goes, because some drivers they could win and get in, like Kyle Busch, like Kevin Harvick, both on the outside looking in for the playoffs. For wild card here first before we get to that. Uh, before we get to that entry list. Uh, I'll go with wild card. Let's see. I'll go with Michael McDowell as the wild card. Uh, I feel like there been tracks. I feel like this car lends to um the smaller teams kind of doing well on the short tracks, and I feel like he's been pretty solid throughout the year. Um, for the most part, not good enough to make the playoffs, but he's a solid top 20 driver. So I could see him possibly getting a top 15 at the very least. In at Bristol, and then for the elimination, uh, this is tough, but I think it's been interesting since the
You
last
eliminated
episode.
Harvick because the
Yeah.
only way he's going to make it is with
Yeah,
a
by a
win.
win. Yeah,
So
well, yeah, by a win, but other things could happen because the initial round 16 elimination, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric. What we talked about, at the beginning, 2 weeks ago, but obviously Alex Bowman's been a lot better. William Byron's in second. Uh, Chase Briscoe still on the outside looking in. So I think two of those are going to end up hitting, or at least one of those. I think Chase Briscoe doesn't make it. I don't think Kevin Harvick is going to make it. I don't think he. I wanted him to, but now we've seen it. I find it hard to believe that he can. Unless he has a miracle win. Don't think he's going to get in here. Austin Dillon, I was wrong on that. I didn't think he had enough pace to or I thought he might have been able to, but so far he has not shown enough pace. And I'm gonna go with Austin Cindric losing out to Kyle Busch. I do think Kyle Busch is only 2 points away. And Kyle Busch is good at Bristol, so I'm going to say Kyle Busch makes it into the next round, but Austin Cindric fails. So yeah, that's what I'll roll with. But anything could happen. But I think those who are going to get eliminated.
yeah, I don't think that's pretty safe, honestly, and it makes a lot of sense. To be fair, Dylan backed into this playoff. Cindric won the Daytona 500 and has been better in qualifying, but hasn't been able to match it with race pace. And then you add, of course, Chase Briscoe, who has been a complete enigma and probably taken at least a year off of my life with some of the performances they've had this year. Um, for me, I mean, I like your pick in regards to MTJ. I don't know if he's ever won in a cup car at Bristol. I mean, there was a while where Martin Truex had never won a short track race. Now, of course, he's won races at Martinsville and Richmond. So I think that would be the first time he's ever won at Bristol if he does that on
I
Saturday
think
night.
Truex won at
He won the
Bristol.
dirt truck race. He won the dirt
He won
truck race at
Xfinity
Bristol.
all the way back
And
in
he's won
2004.
Xfinity back in 2004. So he's never won a cup race, I don't believe. But um, that would be something if that was the case.
Actually,
If he's
first
able to
ever
pull
Cup or NASCAR win, I think, in Bush.
Big three
Yeah,
win was in the Taco Bell car number 8.
for
Yeah,
Chance too.
for Chance to, exactly. That was the first win en route to his first of 2 consecutive Xfinity Series or Busch Series championships for Chance 2 for Dale and Kelly. I'm going to go a little different there. I will go and pick. You know what? Fuck it. Who cares? I'm going to go Kevin Harvick. I'm going to go for the wild card. The guy had a car to win last year in this race. Hendrick went and played team play to assist Kyle Larson, in part because I guess Clyde was aggrieved by Kevin Harvick, and they played patty cake with each other. They played grab ass with each other because that's what they do after the race. But Kevin Harvick had a car to win, didn't get it. Larson was on his way to that championship. In this spot, they have nothing to lose. Point is, a month ago, we didn't think Kevin Harvick was going to make this playoff. They went and won back-to-back races. Now their backs are against the wall again. The fuck does it matter to them to go and win another one? So I'm picking Kevin Harvick to win on Saturday night. My wild card pick for this race. I have to go over here. I'm going to go. We talk about motorsport.com, utilizing them. J-Ski, another great resource, so credit to those two. I'm going to go to Racing Reference and get the last active drivers only at Bristol. The last 10 races. Average finish. Yeah, I mean that actually fits because his average finish is only second behind Kyle Larson in the last 10 races, and he's run 10 races. He has the best average finish over people who have run the last now I guess 4.5 years or 5 and whatever it is, because it's 10, so 9. Yeah. Harvick, Hamlin, Joey Logano, Eric Jones. I don't know how that math works. That doesn't work because Chase Briscoe has run at Bristol 3 times. So that didn't work out. Unless they're counting Bristol dirt. That is weird. Okay. Yeah, it is expired. Of course it would be because it's wrong. I was gonna use their fantasy thing to go and figure out their recent trend. It's like the last 10 races because they're gonna say Bristol. It says Bristol Motor Speedway, active drivers, NASCAR Cup Series. It's like, how are you gonna go and say that Chase Briscoe's only run one race at Bristol? Okay. Well, for me, because Daniel Suarez has run 9. So that makes no sense. Okay. Whatever. I'm going to go for my wild card. I'm going to go and pick Eric Jones because he's great at Bristol. He almost won the night race when I went there in 2017. Kyle Busch moved him over to win that race. He was driving for Furniture Row in the 77 car with 5 Hour Energy as a sponsor. That would have been his first career win. I would have been psyched for that. He's been great at Bristol in his career. It would be huge for that organization if he could go and get a win or run really, really well there. That's my wild card pick. I already picked a guy that would go and advance into the round of 12. So I'm saying Kevin Harvick makes the round of 12. Kyle Busch is going to make the round of 12. I just have a hard time believing he won't. Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe's my guy. He ain't gonna make it. Dillon ain't gonna make it. After that, I will say Austin Cindric gets knocked out and Daniel Suarez. Even though it is one of his best racetracks at Bristol, it's a good racetrack for him. He's had good runs. He has good runs on the dirt a couple of years ago. Last year on the dirt he did. Suarez has not been good enough. Now, I was saying, I guess I didn't make picks. I must have been really drunk when I said that I wouldn't make picks for this playoff, but they're going to be in there now. So in this case, Daniel Suarez, Dillon, Cindric, and Briscoe. I picked Harvick to win. Harvick to win. Eric Jones is a wild card. And then the elimination is the 99, the 2, the 3, and the 14 will get eliminated. Meaning Reddick will fade, 18 will fade, even though Kyle Busch is probably going to get knocked out in the next round. Probably Tyler Reddick will get knocked out in the next round unless he wins at the Charlotte Roval. But that's something we'll get into later. Yeah, so with that, Josh, let's hear about things going on in iRacing and in regards to all kinds of sims like Formula One and the like.
Yeah, of course. I mean, last week in night racing was week 13, and it was all the uh, events that happened for fun. So not really any real serious racing, but they had one series that I was trying out. They had a 13th week ridiculousness league, and that was the IndyCar, ARCA car, and Cup car, all in the current next gen car, all in the
At
same race
Talladega.
at Talladega. Yep. So I did that, and that was pretty fun. I mean, you're basically flat footing it, around the racetrack, but when you have one of the IndyCar setups in there, you can, go 250 miles an hour in the draft, and then you just blow by the stock cars. They're only going like 180 to 195. So when you blow by them like that, then they cue on the voice chat and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe that was so fast, and you scare a few people, and that's what we did in the Indy cars there. But then of course the Indy cars, some of them mess up, and then the field thins out pretty quickly. So there's also that. I had a couple of wreck avoidances, and then a couple of ones where I crashed out, but it was all fun stuff this week. No, nothing counted towards anything, so you could do anything you wanted. Um, yeah, I did that for the most part. I mean, we did Talladega, Indianapolis Road Course, Daytona Speedway, so pretty much all the big ovals and everything for IndyCar and NASCAR there. But yeah, I was taking the Michigan IndyCar setup and running with that, and then I needed a little bit more gear, so in sixth gear, so just lengthened the sixth gear enough until I had a maximum speed of like 256 miles an hour, and that was good enough to pull up in the draft up to like 250, but still you lose speed after that, so maybe I need to tune it up a little bit more to not lose speed when you pull out and pass. But running around 250 like that in pack of Indy cars like that is pretty fun. um and you got to really manage and time your runs there, just like you would in a stock car, but you're just going a whole lot faster. And then you're blowing by guys they're going like not even, well, I won't say half your speed, but going significantly slower and everything. So that was pretty entertaining there. But yeah, we'll back to regular iRacing this week. Of course, there'll be NASCAR Bristol this week, so maybe I might do that. I haven't really raced NASCAR on short track in a while. Partly because I don't know, tend to get into too many incidents, so I don't really like hurting my rating on the you know, on the scale there. But it's always fun though. Maybe I might do it. IndyCar's at Vegas this week, and Laguna Seca. So probably do Laguna Seca rather than Vegas. But maybe I'll do yeah, because I have Laguna Seca. It's free, so I'll do that. Um, the other sports car oval stuff. MX5 at Tsukuba Circuit. I'm trying to look. GT3 at Daytona. So Ferrari GT3 at Daytona. I think Porsche 911 GT3s are at Watkins Glen. So might do that. We'll see. But yeah. I think we'll see if there's anything else I'll do. But main main focus is on the IndyCar and the stock car. But going between both those series, and then occasionally dabbling into some of the other road cars. So we'll go do that. And actually, the didn't see this now, but the advanced Mazda MX-5 Cup Series is racing in Watkins Glen, so might try that one out. So we'll see. But as always in iRacing, a lot of content to choose from to race on, and anything. And you may or may not have yourself in a race against one of the executive producers, aka Dale Earnhardt Jr., or any other guys. You may run into Fernando Alonso. That did not happen to me, but I've seen a bunch of people on iRacing Reddit show that they are racing with Fernando Alonso in a road racing series, or I think even in a couple of oval series. They saw Fernando Alonso in there, or any other of these professional drivers that hop on the sim for fun. That's the great thing, is that you can actually race against these guys. There's some guys that have raced, or not raced, but done pickup basketball, or play pickup football, like against Michael Jordan, or they see him on vacation. But um that that they're gonna be dominating you already, and so it's just more of you're there. But in iRacing, you have the chance to go up against some of these pros and actually rate practice your racecraft against guys that do it for real. So I feel like it's a little bit similar in that sense. But that's what makes it enjoyable, when you can do things like that. So yeah, that concludes the sim segment there. And of course, always follow Twitch TV/usailor2, and that's where iRacing stuff will be. Of course, you can see the iRacing IndyCar at Talladega going 250 miles an hour. You can see that there. Some of the streams I did there. And of course, you can follow my personal profile at twitter.com/JB and see all of my thoughts on football, racing, and anything else I'm interested in. Go on there. And of course, you can follow our YouTube channel at Gripster Podcast, and go on there, subscribe to our channel, see our videos, and see all the content we have on there. Go watch and support our channel there. So yeah, that's where you can follow us, and you can follow our channel, follow me at. So yeah, that concludes me for this show. Phil, you can go ahead and close us out for the rest of the show.
All right, man. Thanks as always for doing your thing, providing all the great insight and content that you do, and also handling the video side of our show on the YouTube page at Gripster Podcast there. All of our episodes are updated. You can listen to us on the audio side, basically anywhere where you can hear podcasts. I'm just going to list them anyway. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Verbal, where you can go and hear the Gripster podcast. And probably there's other ones that I'm missing. But, because we have Podbean, we're able to get good access and good growth and wide berth amongst podcast listeners. And we'll have this episode out here later this week. with the Gripster podcast. Josh, of course, uSailor2 with his Twitch feed, and he does a great job with his racing. He does the right thing. He kind of is the way that Will Power handled this year, which is not what he would usually do, which is part of why he ended up winning that championship. But Josh is a good racer. So there is that. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. Find us at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. You can find the Gripstrip Podcast at philipgmatthew.com as well. And we'll be back for episode 135 next week. We'll go over all things motorsports and sports, football, baseball, and the like, because we're getting close to the end of the season. Looking back at the calendar, 2 weeks till the end of baseball season, so might get a little Yankee coverage in there. But we'll talk about the NASCAR triple header at Bristol. We will get into NHRA, MotoGP. And next week, we'll also get into whatever else is going on in the world of motorsports, football, NFL Week 2, college. Anything goes on there. Rutgers beat Wagner. They're probably getting humbled this week, but they baptized Wagner for whatever reason. 66-7 on Saturday. Hopefully next week in the bowling realm, I'll have better news. The cash realm, I don't know. Hopefully I can make a little more money. Maybe we can monetize this thing. And I can make a couple bucks. So I can live a little better. But with that, for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for always listening to the Gripster Podcast. We'll be back next week for episode 135 to go over all things motorsports and sports. Thank you for your support. Take care. God bless. And goodbye.